604, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, off and running. Brian here with you, Bree Lynn producing. Yes, we are back at the friendly confines of the 180 Pro studio this morning, starting off your 6 o'clock hour at 51 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. We've got a stacked up show for y'all today. Ready to rock and roll. Congresswoman Julia Letlow announced at a business report luncheon yesterday that she is throwing her hat in the ring for the Senate race. What does that mean for the incumbent who's holding down that seat and has been for some time now? Senator Bill Cassidy going to join us at our 7 o'clock hour. We will get reaction to not just the Letlow announcement, but the Letlow endorsement from Donald Trump. Also, though, he is still the senator. Probably a little bit of Senate business to tend to as well. Bill Cassidy, our next hour. As we always do on Wednesdays, we'll have attorney Franz Borghardt in this hour for Legally Served. We just got such a big slate for you. If Julia Letlow's running for Senate, who's running for her seat? Dixon McMakin going to join us at 8:15. So I'll give you the rest of the rundown in a little bit, but we're ready to rock and roll. Let's get it. Top stories and trending. U.S. Education Secretary Linda McMahon's in New Orleans today. She will join Louisiana education leaders for a civics education showcase that will recognize Louisiana students for their leadership, scholarship, and civic engagement. This, by the way, coincides with the U.S. Department of Education's History Rocks Trail to Independence tour as part of the celebrations surrounding America 250. Another East Baton Rouge Justice of the Peace is the latest subject of a Judiciary Commission investigation into possible misconduct. Mark Miley, who's been in the position since 2009, will now have to prove to the commission that he should keep his job. According to the commission's report, the investigation found Miley violated several judicial conduct canons, engaged in willful misconduct, and, quote, persistent public conduct that brings the judicial office into disrepute. This will be one of our topics in Legally Served with Franz Borghardt. At least 29 new lawsuits have been filed in the 19th JDC since the original deadline for the look-back window passed for victims of sexual abuse by members of the Catholic Church. The deadline, originally set for June 2024, has now been pushed back to June 14th, 2027. Most of the newly filed lawsuits identify clergy members who appeared on the Diocese of Baton Rouge's list of credibly accused individuals, which was released back in 2019. This also will be a topic of conversation when Franz is in for Legally Served. Protesters with Indivisible Baton Rouge participated in a nationwide Free America walkout against certain policies of the Trump administration. Organizers said it was a demonstration in response to ICE raids, National Guard troops, attacks on the trans community, and other policies enacted by the Trump administration. The company at the center of Louisiana Attorney General Liz Murrell's investigation into an alleged scheme to steal public money was originally founded and owned by Baton Rouge Metro Council member Cleve Dunn Jr., according to state records. This coming from an article in the Advocate, or theadvocate.com, who notes that in last week, a special grand jury indicted the former Capital Area Transit System Chief Administrative Officer Perlita Thomas and contractor Jerry J. Kohler on multiple counts of theft, conspiracy, and misuse of funds. This is according to the article, we're now adding Cleve Dunn's name to this whole thing. What you got?
Closing arguments are scheduled to start today in the trial of former Uvalde, Texas school police officer Adrian Gonzalez.
He just waited idly by while kids were being slaughtered.
I know. And it's heartbreaking.
It is.
Absolutely heartbreaking.
And yeah, I know. The part that I'm having trouble with, though, is like this isn't just like a moral dilemma for a man. Do I rush in when someone, like, if I rush in there, my life could be over too. This is what you sign up for.
Correct.
When you become this is why so much respect and deference is given to police officers, is because we as the public all have that trust that when the you-know-what hits the fan, your butt's the first one in the room.
Right.
So that's what makes this so much harder.
I know.
Yeah.
Facing 29 charges, too, in connection to that. It's just, it's heartbreaking.
Yep.
After 27 years at NASA, capped by 286 days in space, Sonny Williams, that astronaut who got stuck on the space station last year, has decided that's enough, which
Yeah.
I don't blame her. She's announced she is retiring.
No doubt. No doubt. I would think it was 286, you said?
Yes, 200. I remember when I was seeing this story, I said, man, bring them home, please.
Well, and yeah, she's just up there. Like, what do you do after a certain point? What do you do?
I know.
You know?
And see, I have anxiety, Brian, and I take medication for my anxiety.
Yeah.
So I would be up there just freaking out. You know?
Yeah, I can see why. You're in space.
Right. Gosh. All right. So this show, it gets raunchy. So I'm interested to see. All right. Here's the deal.
This show gets
the one I'm about to talk about.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant this show.
No, well, no, not Sonny Williams, God bless. But no, so the Hunting Wives, Angel Reese, announced on social media Tuesday that she is set to co-star in the Netflix murder mystery series, The Hunting Wives.
Okay, so I'm going to need a little bit of help here. What's this about?
Okay, so it's basically two women, and it's been a while since I watched it, but two women who meet for the first time, but one of the wives is married to somebody who is high up there in politics, and come to find out, she swings the other way. So she pursues this other wife.
Okay.
And so anyways, it's a whole raunchy. There's a lot of, what going on throughout the show. It's a good watch. There's a lot of drama behind it, some humor, but Angel Reese.
So this is like a scripted. This isn't like a reality show.
No, it's not a reality show. It's a
drama.
fiction.
Okay.
Yes, it's a fictional drama. And I probably didn't tell that story best, but The Hunting Wives, it's a dang good watch.
Okay.
It's really good. And they already have season 1 that's done and done. Season 2, I believe they're in production for it right now.
This is what Angel Reese signed up for, season 2.
So, look, I'll be fully honest, Brian. They get nasty. So I'm like, okay, are we going to see Angel Reese?
I don't
want to see Angel Reese like that.
She already did the body issue for Sports Illustrated. So
well, that's true. She don't care no more.
Just about everything as it is. So.
She don't care no more.
No, I understand. But, okay. And look, not the first LSU athlete to move over to acting,
Right. Oh, yeah. Good point.
So, well, I don't know. I don't know if it would.
I would say, I don't know if it's your cup of tea, Brian.
I'm trying to process in my mind, and no, it's probably not going to happen on this end. We're going to break. We'll have sports on the back end of that break. Before we take our break, though, got to remind you about the folks over at Mathern's. The Kenilworth Mathern's is your home base for king cakes. Actually, I was by the LSU branch yesterday. I was working the Kim Mulkey show last night for LSU Sports Properties. Of course, if I'm working LSU, I stop in at Mathern's to grab my dinner. And sure enough, walk in. Not the ginormous display that they have over at Kenilworth, but there was no shortage of king cakes over there at the Mathern's on campus. They had the Nona Randazzo's. They had a whole bunch of the Joe's king cakes. Of course, they had a bunch of Mathern's king cakes as well. If you want that mother load, if you want that home base that has all of them, though, the Nona Randazzo's, the Kalutas, the Joe's, the Ubigs, the why am I forgetting the best one? Oh, Haydell's. I like all of them. They've got them all over there. Mathern's at Kenilworth. It's actually Highland Road, just west of Kenilworth. Your king cake headquarters is Mathern's. Quick break. We'll talk a little bit about that. Lane Kiffin was at the same business report breakfast as Julia Letlow. We'll talk about that a little bit next.
Michelle's like, is Brian sick? I'm like, he sounds a little stuffy.
Yeah, fighting through it.
She said she woke up, her voice is froggy, sore throat, a drip, she's stuffy too. I'm like, Cinema.
Well, my wife's coming off it too, so.
Oh. Hello, good morning. How are you? I was about to say, are you going to come back in or we scared you off? I know. That's so funny. And then we'll have to clown about it on the air. That's so funny. All right. We'll come to you in a minute.
This report comes to you from the Talk 1073 Traffic Center. Experience, quality, and weather, traffic, and the story shaping our parishes. Talk 1073.
.616 Talk 1073 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Man, I know we need to get to sports right now, y'all, but I need like 30 seconds worth of personal privilege. What an amazing day yesterday. How unbelievable. Like, so yesterday we did a day of giving for Guarantee. We turned 100 years old on Monday, did a day of giving yesterday. I apologize once again to the folks that follow us on Facebook Live. We had all kinds of difficulties with that between the camera, the software, and the microphone. That's the hat trick right there. Difficulties on all three fronts. But my apologies on that front. But as far as like the content within the show, getting the Greater Better Food Bank on the show, and then actually doing the work.
Yeah.
As I was going back at the end of the day and just kind of watching all four stations with the social media posts and everything, it's just it really sunk in. Like that was really, really cool.
That
and
was
the
cool.
folks at the Greater Baton Rouge Food Bank made it so. Like this is not about me patting Guarantee on the back, which I could do all day long, but the folks at the Great, if you are thinking about having like a company retreat or something, I would seriously consider doing this because number one, you're giving back. Number two, you're working together as a team the whole time. Very, very underrated piece of the whole day was the teamwork. And then I reach out to the Greater Baton Rouge Food Bank because they're always looking for help. They're always looking for volunteers. And this would be a great outlet for exactly that. So God, what a day yesterday.
It was a good day. And I worked with
good.
the food bank in my other role before I started full-time with y'all. So I already knew what kind of quality people the folks were. And I kept telling Michelle, we're walking into good hands.
Well,
they're great people.
I knew the people were great
Yeah.
and the mission is great. I knew both of those things. I never knew that like what I would walk away with would be so fulfilling.
Oh,
And
I agree.
And the whole like the team aspect of it, the way like when you're filling boxes and whatnot, it's just it's not like an assembly line, but like everybody's motor's churning.
I know.
Everybody's rowing in the same direction. It's awesome. So, all right, back to reality here. Lane Kiffin was a guest at the Baton Rouge Business Report's Power Breakfast yesterday, talking about how torn he was over whether or not to leave Ole Miss for LSU. But he did say former LSU coach Nick Saban told him he would regret not taking the LSU job if he passed because it is the best job in America.
When he said that, that really made the decision for me. And as I've looked at it, it has pushed me. It has got me out of a comfort zone that we were doing amazing things, but you come here and you feel the power of the place, and it drives you every day to even go to another level.
By the way, he's walking into the #1 transfer portal class in the country. We were just shy of 40 players coming into LSU from other schools. Our sister station, our partners over at LouisianaSports.net, who are closely tied to our sister station, 104.5 ESPN, they've got the LSU transfer portal tracker, the portal trackers up there, not just with the guys coming in, but the guys staying and the guys leaving. It's all over there at LouisianaSports.net. Yeah, I took 30 seconds of personal privilege and turned it into 90.
Alan, we're about to get your winter weather down here.
Good morning, Christy. Welcome in, boo. I didn't forward you any highlights from LSU men's basketball. Number one, because they lost by 18, and number two, because freaking Haystack Calhoun was on the production end last night. I didn't have time to edit out like 45 seconds of garbage before a highlight. And I'm just like, I won't play it. It's likelihood that anybody knows who Haystacks Calhoun is or was. Zero. Right about zero.
I don't know.
Percentage of people in it. I'm getting more and more Dennis Millerish as I get older. All right, looks like I'll be swinging by Matherns before the day's out. The missus wants a Joe's King Cake, and the only place to get that, I think the only place to get it is Matherns. Awesome, good deal. I have my mission. All right, time to head back to the traffic center. Here's what we got going on: slowdowns on I-12 westbound. Not slowdowns, just congestion. It's actually a little bit lighter than most mornings. Definitely lighter than it was yesterday morning. 12 westbound, right back around Range Avenue, and then again by O'Neill Lane. You're going to tap the brakes a little bit. You got some neighbors out there on the road, but not enough to bring you to a stop. Definitely not enough to make you want to change your route. After O'Neill Lane, picked right back up all the way through the 10-12 merge. Meanwhile, I-10 westbound coming in from Ascension Parish looks great. I-10 eastbound coming over from West Baton Rouge looks great. And I-110 is looking golden in both directions as well. As far as your surface streets are concerned, there is only one accident on the board right now. It's from a little more than half an hour ago, Highland Road at Astor. It has been moved off the roadway, but BRPD is still working it, so be on the lookout for that if you're on Highland. That's your look at traffic from the Talk 107.3 Traffic Center. .624 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. One more quick sports nugget before we move on. LSU basketball falls last night on the road at number 16 Florida, 79-61. Your final score right there. Mike Nwoko led the way for the Tigers with 17 points, and it was rough. They did well in the first like 3 or 4 minutes of the game. And then it just, as it started to slip away, it got progressively worse. LSU will stay on the road. They're playing at Arkansas this coming Saturday. All right, it is time for Legally Served.
I'm being charged with a crime I legally served with attorney Franz Borghardt. Don't tell me what I know and don't know. I know the law.
Hopping on the hotline one more time. He'll be back in studio a week after next. Franz Borghardt is with us. How are you, sir?
I feel like we're ships passing in the night, Brian.
Yeah,
I'm going to be in studio next week. Is that Wednesday that you might be in D.C.?
No, it's Wednesday's my travel day. In fact, at this time, Wednesday, 1 week from today, right now, I should be pulling up into the Baton Rouge Metro Airport parking lot.
So my point is, Brian, I might be in studio next week, and you might be on the road. So, like I said, ships just passing in the night. I miss you guys. I miss the studio.
We miss you. We miss having you here. Absolutely. We'll get back on track right after Washington Mardi Gras for sure.
Yes, sir.
And we'll talk about next Wednesday after the show. See about what level of availability you've got over there. We've got a couple different topics to talk about this morning. I want to start with the headline that I saw over at WBRZ. The headline reads, WBRZ investigative unit, dozens of new lawsuits filed against Diocese of Baton Rouge alleging sex abuse. At least 29 new lawsuits have been filed in the 19th JDC since the original deadline for the look-back window passed for victims of sexual abuse by members of the Catholic Church. The deadline, originally set for June of 2024, has now been pushed back to June 14th, 2027. In March of 24, Supreme Court justices ruled in a 4-3 decision that legislators had violated the state constitution when they removed the statute of limitations for sexual abuse claims and provided victims a temporary window to file lawsuits. So in May of that year, the court stated they would review the decision. In June, it reversed itself. I want to walk through this. There's a number of different angles. What was your first takeaway on it?
Well, first and foremost, I feel compelled to say this because if you know anything about me, if you ever go to my social media, I'm slightly Catholic.
Yes.
And so I don't want anything I say to be construed as bias. That said, there is no one that gets more pissed off about this kind of stuff than someone who's trying to be a good Catholic. That said, got that out of the way. It's interesting. These individuals, these victims, these survivors of these horrible incidents, assuming that they did happen, right? Because of all these lawsuits, I leave room for the possibility that some of them are valid and some of them may be not valid, and then there may be some space in between.
Yes.
The problem is with the nature of these types of lawsuits is, people are always like, well, why did you wait so long? Well, what we know is that survivors generally are reluctant to come forward and to pursue these kind of cases, these kind of prosecutions. Why? Because one, they're trying to live normal lives, in as much as you can live a normal life having been abused sexually. So there is a certain understanding that comes with maybe there was a reason they delayed in reporting. Obviously a good defense attorney, Brian, is going to say, well, the reason you waited is because you're just trying to get on the bandwagon. And that, so it's interesting to me because the legislature tried to help these individuals and the Supreme Court said, no, you can't change the law to provide an additional right that didn't previously exist, and that being the statute of limitations. So I'm not shocked. Now, the other piece, if you're a viewer or a listener, you got to keep in the back of your mind, and you guys are smart. A lot of this is also clickbait, right? If 1,000 Catholic priests sued, it wasn't 1,000, but I mean, the part of this is just good old-fashioned clickbait. Of these suits that were filed, and again, I know we're running short on time, of these suits that are filed, sometimes you have to file a suit to reserve the right. It doesn't mean all these cases are going to go to trial. In fact, I would anticipate a lot of these cases resolving themselves before it ever gets that far.
Okay, well, hang on. That's where we're going to pause it right there. because there are already a dozen questions that I have on the back end of this. He is attorney Franz Borghardt. We do Legally Serve about this time every single week. Going to drop Franz right back on hold. We've got ABC News coming up in 15 seconds from right now. After ABC News, we'll check our local news. We will check traffic. We will check weather. Legally Serve with attorney Franz Borghardt will continue in just a little bit. Don't forget, next hour, Councilman Rowdy Gaudet going to join us to talk about plan of government, and Senator Bill Cassidy responding to Julia Letlow getting in the Senate race. Oh. Oh. On this day in 2006, his old man passed away. Yep. It's 20 years ago. I'm sure he's okay.
You don't forget.
Mm-mm. Did you get the Robert Kraft cut that I sent you?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. William Akelin Nungesser, known as Billy, was a leader of the Republican Party in the formerly traditionally Democratic state of Louisiana during much of the latter 20th century. Born in the Carrollton section of New Orleans, lived mostly in Algiers until he and his wife, the former Ruth Amelia Marks, moved to Belchase in Plaquemines Parish in the late 1990s to be nearer to their two grandchildren. Nungesser was appointed to the Louisiana Gaming Control, blah, 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 blah. It goes on from there. But yeah, he passed away January 21st, 2006. Yeah.
What did he pass of?
It doesn't say. He was born in 1929, so he was mid 80s. Yeah.
year after Hurricane Katrina.
Yeah. Some. Six 637 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. We're continuing with Legally Served with attorney Franz Borghardt, who is rejoining us on the hotline right now. Franz, as we were going into the break, you were mentioning that it is worth noting that when how did you put it? When suits are filed, that doesn't mean they're going to come to trial or come to fruition at all.
So when we have deadlines for statute of limitations or what we call prescription, we have to file suit or we lose the right.
Right.
If you don't use it, you lose it. And sometimes those cases get filed quickly to beat the deadline.
Yeah.
Now it's not that there's no viability of those cases. It's just there's a difference between a good case that's been well formulated before a lawsuit and a case that is being filed that's shaky on thin ice to beat the deadline. So there's that. The other consideration that nobody is really talking about is the solvency of these dioceses across Louisiana and across the country.
Yeah.
Baton Rouge may be very solvent. New Orleans is not solvent.
Right.
There are places in the country where the Catholic Church dioceses are not doing financially fantastic. So if you sue an entity that is bankrupt, I think my daddy put it best, Brian, when he said, good luck squeezing blood out of a turnip. Which is to say, you may have a great lawsuit, but if there's no money, if there's no deep pocket, and I know that's hard for people to understand, like they're like, wait, I watched Godfather 3. The Catholic Church has a bunch of money, right? They real estate holdings.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I mean, you look around Baton Rouge, the only, the numbers have been dwindling over the years, to be sure. We have fewer Catholic churches now than we did 2 decades ago, to be sure.
And we still got a lot of them, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Right. I mean, one of the things I love about New Orleans is you can go to 3 Catholic churches that are in the same blast radius by walking.
Yeah.
It is just so solvency. And by solvency, let me be very specific. Let me use a colloquialism. A deep pocket.
Right.
Money.
Right.
So there's a lot of considerations that go into this. Now, the other piece is is of these multiple lawsuits, how many are good ones?
So that's
How many of them are hey, Bill Cosby doused me with something, I'm going to join the group.
Mhm.
You know, and I don't mean that to invalidate any survivor, any victim, but the truth of the matter is that, like I said at the beginning of the segment or the show, you're going to have good ones and you're going to have not good ones.
Well, and you're going to have ones that you can't know one way or the other. This is where I have a problem with it, Franz.
Absolutely.
This is where I have a problem with it. WBRC listed out 8 priests that were included in the new lawsuits that were filed since June of 2024. Of the 8 priests that have been named in the last year and a half, 4 of those 8 priests are dead. Now, where I have a problem with this is something that happened, and the WBRC says the dates of abuse range from 1963 to 1993. So something that allegedly happened 40 years ago, I thought in this nation you had the right to confront your accuser when you are the defendant here. So if you find a priest who has long since died, you can say whatever you want, and it can't be contradicted at all. I mean, to me, that's a blank check.
So it's somebody who defends individuals accused of sexual misbehavior and acts.
Yep.
I will tell you, how do I defend them? Well, I have to, one of the ways I defend them is if it's an isolated incident, if I can establish that, hey, you claim that this person did X, Y, and Z to you on this date or in this time frame, this person was living in another country.
Right.
Well, that's an easy defense.
Yeah.
But when you start talking about, hey, this priest did X, Y, and Z to me over these decades, and by the way, he's dead now.
Yeah.
That becomes
that's my point.
very difficult. That becomes a very difficult. Now, surely, now again, some of these may really have happened.
Absolutely. And sifting through, that's the hard part.
Now I'm also a jaded criminal defense attorney that has dead inside issues. I also don't put it past a good con person from saying, you know what, this priest is dead. And I was living in this area. And I'm Catholic. I'm going to say this priest did X, Y, and Z to me. And there's no way they're going to be able to disprove it. I don't put it past people to do both ends of the spectrum, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
To be truthful, honest victims, survivors coming forward and saying, hey, this bad person did this to me. And I also know that there exists in the world the other, you know. So yeah, you make a valid point. Those are going to be hard for the diocese. Those are going to be hard cases to defend.
So one of the quotes from within the story says, fortunately in Louisiana, the plaintiff's testimony alone is enough to prove a case. And that's usually the case in sexual assault cases to begin with, because they happen behind closed doors. That's attorney Julian Lamoth is where that quote's coming from. So yeah, if you have the plaintiff's testimony and the defendant has been dead for some time now, then the Catholic Church is just going to have to like pony over whatever dollars are asked for.
Well, they're going to make the plaintiffs jump through hoops and work.
Uh-huh.
They're also going to depose these surviving victims, these plaintiffs. They're going to depose them, and they're going to weigh how credible they seem. And again, just in a vacuum, it's easy for us to say, hey, you know, there's no way of defending this. Well, something funny happens when you start taking testimony under oath and you have a chance to examine a witness.
Mm-hmm.
Something funny happens. You get to start examining credibility and truthfulness.
Okay.
And if somebody has a track record in their life of being dishonest,
mm-hmm.
that's going to come out. You know, so I wouldn't start necessarily cutting checks yet.
Okay, but at the same time, though, the headline's going to read Catholic Church opts for victim blaming instead of owning responsibility.
Well, here's the problem. And I do advocacy with La FASA. I do advocacy with STARS. I also defend people who are accused of acts.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the problem. You can say outside of the legal system that victim blaming, victim shaming is entirely inappropriate, and it is.
Mhm.
But when you bring it into a courthouse, either through a lawsuit or through a criminal allegation, that is a constitutional right of the accused
Mhm.
to confront their accusers or to challenge these allegations, especially if it didn't happen. It's easy for us to wrap our brain around bad priest does bad thing, and I cannot believe you're victim shaming. How dare you?
Right.
Wrap your brain around innocent priest who didn't do anything. We know a priest in Grand Coteau. He runs a retreat facility. He was accused of doing sexual acts against someone who later recanted, and it was found that it never happened.
Okay. Yeah.
So if I'm innocent of these allegations, you're darn right I'm gonna challenge the veracity and the truthfulness. I'm gonna challenge everything, and I am gonna point the finger at the victim, and I'm gonna put them on trial. So it's kind of the price, and I get that that's what makes it hard for people to come forward. But here's the thing: when you make it a legal thing,
Right. Right.
that is what has to happen to protect both the real victims, which could be the real victims of those sexually assaulted, and the real victims of those who've been wrongfully accused of something they never did.
And this is where we're going to have to jump in to take a break. And this is where we're going to have to push pause on this particular story. We've got another one after we take our break. Attorney Franz Borghardt is with us. When we come back, another EBR Justice of the Peace facing misconduct claims from the Judiciary Commission. That's where Legally Served will go next. And
I'm meant to do it, but I'm gonna
cut it and get it to Cade, because if Cade doesn't know, he can't fix it. Doesn't know.
Right. Let me write that down. Let me actually write it down.
Oh.
Can I take that down? Or they wanted
I'll leave it up for now. It's stupid, but you can't read it.
And I told Michelle, I was like, we can maybe do it in gray, like a.
It's not gonna matter. It's just not gonna matter. No. Yes. I Is it time to look at deconsolidating? One of the topics we'll be talking about next hour when Metro Councilman Rowdy Gaudet joins us. Also next hour, Senator Bill Cassidy going to be on board at 7:35. Julia Lettlow's in the race. What's his reaction? He's been doing the job, so I would imagine his reaction is continue moving forward. We'll talk with him, though, coming up at 7:35 about the Senate race. Right now, though, we go back to Attorney Franz Borghardt. Got about 7 minutes left with Franz. We're going to pivot on topics here. Per WBRZ, another East Baton Rouge Justice of the Peace is the latest subject of a Judiciary Commission investigation into possible misconduct. Mark Miley, who's been in the position since 2009, will now have to prove to the commission that he should be able to keep his job. The second Justice of the Peace in Baton Rouge facing a hearing in front of the Judiciary Commission, Tracy, I believe that's pronounced Baptiste, was temporarily removed from her position last June. According to the commission's report, the investigation found Miley violated several judicial conduct canons, engaged in willful misconduct, and, quote, persistent public conduct that brings the judicial office into disrepute. Franz, I don't know how to start breaking this down, because a justice of the peace is like a judge, but not really.
So I think we have to start with a song that encapsulates this entire situation. Mama told me not to. I did it anyway, misbehaving. A justice of the peace is an elected, it's not quite a judge, but it's kind of a judge.
That's what I'm asking.
It's like a magistrate,
Okay.
kind of. They do evictions. They can do warrants. They can do all sorts of little stuff. They can generate large quantities of money.
Mm-hmm.
They can also do marriages, by the way.
They can
also
settle.
do marriages.
They could settle civil cases under $5,000.
Right. And by the way, in the article, did you see how much money his little court generated?
I did. We're gonna scroll back down again.
I think he paid himself like $220,000.
He took home over
$2. Justice of the peace.
In 2024, Miley reported he brought in more than $489,000 in court fees.
Right. So the gig pays like so the viewers and listeners hear me say this. The gig, the job pays $5,000-ish.
Okay.
Plus you can which by the way, for the amount of work you do, isn't like that's sub-minimum wage.
Right. No, I understand that.
So you supplement your salary,
Yeah.
if it's your full-time job, with court costs.
Mm-hmm.
This guy's making $220,000. So part of the allegations are, wait, you evicted somebody that like wasn't even in your little region? Huh? Part of the allegations are probably impropriety, but these small claims, they add up over time. Like it's a thing. And you better believe property management companies that handle evictions for owners of property, they don't have like one property that they're managing. They have a lot.
Right.
So you're talking about, and look, it's not just the allegations. The allegations haven't gone through the process yet. So this guy is presumed, I hesitate to say presumed innocent, but that's kind of the word we'd have to use.
Right.
Before a determination is made. But here's the thing. This is not the first justice of the peace that's coming out under scrutiny.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a great gig. If you do it right, you can make a good living being a justice of the peace.
Well,
if you do it illegally, you can make a good living being a justice of the peace, but you may get caught.
So here's the thing. In the paragraph after it lists that Miley brought in $489,000 in court fees, the very next paragraph says, while those court fees are much higher than most of the other justices of the peace, it's slightly less than Larry Spencer and drastically less than Stephen Sanders, who collected over $750,000 in court fees. Like,
think about that.
How do you get in on this racket?
Dude, you have to run for office and you have to get elected.
Uh-huh.
And then you have to run, and part of it is, where are you? Because like your geographical district, your region may just not have the financial opportunities in terms of evictions, in terms of small claims. I mean, we know that different parishes have different degrees of lawsuits versus others.
Right.
So there's that. But if you run, and look, you can do it right and run your court, I use that word loosely, run your court like a well-run machine, and you can generate a lot of money.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of your court, that's one of the questions I had about a justice of the peace. Where is their court? Like physically?
The ones I've been to, and full disclosure, over 20 years of practice, I've handled one JP matter.
Okay.
I mean, Franz Borghardt is a high-profile criminal defense attorney.
Understood.
Jet setting. They're generally in a rented office space.
Okay.
Unless the district has its own quote unquote. So like a city court is in a city court.
Right.
Unless the parish uses a gym. Like mayor's court is in town hall unless they use a school gym to conduct mayor's court. Some of them have freestanding offices that have been bought by the district. Some of them probably just rent commercial office space.
Right.
And
so when you're a
all
justice
you have
of the peace,
is you have
when you're a justice of the peace, though, I mean, you could technically hold court in your own kitchen.
Theoretically.
Okay.
Although that certainly doesn't, the optics of that don't look great.
Well, it brings a whole new meaning to the judge's robe.
Don't cook it. Don't cook the books, baby. My point is you can shoestring budget it, and all of a sudden those numbers that we're talking about, like, and by the way, he decides or she decides what they pay for their salary.
Love that. I want that gig.
So it's no, and look, guys, this is no different than any elected official who's tasked with generating revenue to help pay for their job, whether it's the district attorney of a parish, whether it may be the sheriff. They generate money, and their money generally goes either back to the parish, and then they get a salary from there, or, I'm not going to get into the weeds with that.
Well, because we're out of time. He's attorney Franz Borghardt. We always appreciate the time, brother. We'll talk soon. Later. Here's news. Franz, Borghardt. We always appreciate the time, brother. We'll talk soon. All right, Troy says most justice of the peace are in a strip shopping center or out of their home. It's like you can legitimately set up court in your own home. Ma, meatloaf. What was that? Was that old? No, it was Wedding Crashers. That was. I was trying to remember which Will Ferrell that was. Michael says, even though he paid himself $250,000, my question is, did he help clean up some of the mess and truly be a justice of the peace by keeping the peace and people in line? The problem is, and Troy, back me up on this, yeah, or refute, either way. As a justice of the peace, does he handle any of the cases that are causing the problems? A justice of the peace, here we go. A part-time judge handling small civil cases under $5,000, landlord-tenant issues, evictions, minor ordinance violations, and preliminary criminal hearings, while also serving as an ex officio notary, which was where the marriage stuff comes in. So, like, if you have 3 people shot at the exotic pawn off of Florida Boulevard, that doesn't come across the justice of the peace desk right there. If you have somebody who is, walking out of Perlis with a whole bunch of dress shirts, that doesn't come across for justice of the peace. Like, the justice of the peace handles civil problems and we have a criminal problem. So I don't know if those two streams cross. I could be wrong. Troy says that gemstone drop was superb. It was. Oh. Galen says, Brian, the church being culpable in the crimes is the church is culpable in the crimes. The priest being dead is irrelevant because the trials are about the church's culpability. Well, the trials are about cashing in at this point. Now, I don't mind saying that. If you got molested in 1980 and 2026, you want to roll around and hop in this game, you're looking to cash in. You've had 60 years, or no, I'm sorry, 46 years of life and therapy under your belt since then. I have very, very little left in the tank for that, because it does a disservice to all the rest of those who came forward on the front end. And it doesn't matter that the church is culpable. You know what? Now I'm pissed. What matters is the fact that you can't have a legitimate trial because the accused cannot speak for themselves. The priest is named in the case. That's the person who did it or didn't do it, which you cannot determine because they're dead. The church is the pockets that pays for it. Byron says, I lost a significant part of my business due to the NOLA diocese bankruptcy. I'm also a practicing Catholic. The whole thing tests my faith, but it remains. These are the actions of humans, not the actions of the church itself. 7:05, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Hour 2 coming your way right now. Brian here with you, Bree Lynn producing. We're starting off the 7 o'clock hour at 52 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge as we broadcast live from the 180 Pros studio. 180 Pros, not your IT provider, your IT partner. We've got a busy hour this hour. Hopping on the hotline in our next segment will be Metro Councilman Rowdy Gaudet. The conversation's getting started about deconsolidation. Where does that conversation start? Where does it head? We have a consolidated form of government here in East Baton Rouge, as it is a city/parish form of government. What does that look like moving forward? Because now that we have St. George, we have Baton Rouge, St. George, Zachary, Baker, and Central. That's 5 full cities right there. How do you make sure everyone is getting their just due and paying their just due? Well, I mean, maybe deconsolidation is the route to go here. I know it's growing in popularity, to be sure. We'll talk with Rowdy Gaudet in our next segment. Also this hour, and I don't want to bury the lead at all, Senator Bill Cassidy, hard at work up on Capitol Hill, hard at work on the campaign trail as well. Got some news over the course of this week. Donald Trump endorsed Julia Letlow, and then Julia Letlow joined the race. We'll talk with Senator Cassidy at 7:35. Get the breakdown of, like, number one, how that happened, like how it processed, what his reaction was, and where he's at right now moving forward in the race for Senate, which, by the way, May 16th is the primary election there. If Julia Letlow, that's not a whole lot of time to get a ground game going. So we'll talk with her as soon as we possibly can, but we'll have Senator Cassidy up at 7:35 today. Right now, top stories and trending. Let's start you off this morning. In West Baton Rouge Parish, deputies responded to an overturned 18-wheeler along Highway 190. They said the 18-wheeler was driving west near Rougon Road before crossing into the eastbound lanes and overturning off the roadway. The truck driver did make it out of the truck. He was given medical attention. This happened at the beginning of our show this morning. But if you're heading in either direction on 190, you can expect some delays, and that will continue for a little bit. U.S. Education Secretary Linda McMahon is in New Orleans today. She will join Louisiana education leaders for a civics education showcase that will recognize Louisiana students for their leadership, scholarship, and civic engagement. This coincides with the U.S. Department of Education's History Rocks Trail to Independence tour, which is part of the celebration surrounding America 250. Another East Baton Rouge Justice of the Peace is alleged subject of a Judiciary Commission investigation into possible misconduct. This we talked about just now with attorney Franz Borghardt last hour in our Legally Served segment. Mark Miley's been in the position since 2009. He will now have to prove to the commission that he should keep his job. And also what we talked about in Legally Served, at least 29 new lawsuits have been filed in the 19th JDC since the original deadline for the look-back window passed for victims of sexual abuse by members of the Catholic Church. The deadline, originally set for June of 2024, has now been pushed back to June 14th of 2027. Most of the newly filed lawsuits identify clergy members who appeared on the Diocese Baton Rouge list of credibly accused individuals, which was released back in 2019. Protesters with Indivisible Baton Rouge participated in a nationwide Free America walkout against certain policies of the Trump administration. Organizers said it's a demonstration in response to ICE raids, National Guard troops, attacks on the trans community, and other policies of this Trump administration.
Closing arguments are scheduled to start today in the trial of former Uvalde, Texas school police officer Adrian Gonzalez.
You signed up for the gig, boss. Like, you swore, no, you signed up to be a police officer. Like, as a man, every man needs to be honest with themselves. You don't know until you're in the position whether or not you're going to go charging towards the fire or away from it. You can't know that. You want to believe it. I would want to believe it, but you can't know until you're in that moment. And God willing, none of us will ever have to be in that moment. But the moment that you put on a badge, the moment you sign up for the gig, you don't have a choice anymore.
I agree.
This, as Hyman Roth said in Godfather 2, this is the business we've chosen.
Business. You know, I was reading online ABC News put this out probably about 12 hours ago. And I knew this part, but his defense argues that the scene was chaotic. He didn't reasonably, under intense pressure, limited information. I was reading, let me pull up that article real fast. They were saying tunnel vision.
Mm-hmm.
His defense is claiming, it's kind of like they compared the example to describe when you're struggling to find your car keys when you're running late for work and you're stressed, but the whole time you have them in your hand. Gonzalez did not testify himself, though.
Smart.
It's just, what you gonna say? I messed up. You messed up.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
I know.
All right. After 27 years at NASA, capped by 286 days in space, Sonny Williams, that astronaut who got stuck on the space station last year, poor thing, has decided that's enough. She's announced she is retiring. I don't blame her.
What?
I know.
You just spent 286 days in space.
I know,
Just
right?
hanging it up from that?
Just hanging out the whole time,
Just knocking on the window, be like, guys.
Not even a book, probably.
Guys?
Nothing.
No, she had to have books.
That's what I'm
Books
saying.
on tape. A whole
Something.
bunch of podcasts.
Right.
Listening to Louisiana Business Weekly.
Listening to Talk 107.3.
Listen to the Moon Griffon podcast. Yes.
Poor thing. Golly. I don't blame her.
Is it getting worse?
Right. I know. Right off into the sunset. Okay. So I didn't do a well enough job last hour, but we're about to dive into this one. Angel Reese announced on social media Tuesday that she is set to co-star in the Netflix murder mystery series, The Hunting Wives. So a little backstory on this show, Brian.
Mhm.
It's a whole psychological thriller. It was actually based off a book, which I did know. So Brittany Snow stars in this. The series has been renewed for season 2. It's all coming. So the theme behind it, it's infidelity, it's mystery, it's murder, betrayal, dark secrets. It's all these women in a clique, basically.
Mhm.
And they're all, it's a dang good, well-written series, I'll be honest. But there is a lot of raunchiness to it.
Graphic or
It's
just
very
implied?
graphic.
Oh, wow.
No, like they show it all. And
Really?
it's woman to woman in the show, woman to man. Yeah, it's one of those where my boys would come into the room and I'm like, nope.
You
Hit
turn it off right
yep,
away.
Turn it off, hit the home button.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Angel Reese was on the cover of Sports
The
Illustrated.
body issue. Yeah.
Yes. So no surprise there that she would
No.
pull it
doesn't
all
shock-
down
Yeah.
for the Hunting Wives.
Right. Also she's, not the first LSU athlete to make the transition over to the
Right.
screen. We've seen that a couple of different times.
Right.
Like for example, Shaquille O'Neal started Blue Chips in Kazam.
Very true. And Shaq is now doing, what is it? The
Also,
Armor commercials and
also, you know what? I'm gonna get myself in trouble
yep. Nope.
because not the first four. No. Stop. I tell you what, if you want that punchline, hit up our Facebook Live as soon as we get the break, which we're about to take right now. Before we take that break, though, want to remind you about the Baton Rouge Metro Airport, flybtr.com, flybtr.com. 1 week from today, I'll be wheels up at this time, like literally at this time, I'll be wheels up from the Baton Rouge Metro Airport, flying to our nation's capital for Washington Mardi Gras. And it was a week to go less than a week to go till Washington Mardi Gras gets underway. If you have not yet made your flight plans, there is still time available. There are still plenty of flights available leaving from Baton Rouge to Reagan National, from our airport to the basically heart of the capital. If you're flying into DC, Reagan National is where you want to be. It's closest to the action. Dulles is way out there. What do you do? Save money and fly to Baltimore? Then you're going to tack a train ride back on the end of that. No, BTR to Reagan National. Learn more at flybtr.com. All right, next segment, plan of government. Segment after that, Senator Bill Cassidy. Quick break. We're coming back next.
All right. You're off the air, so tell them.
Are we on?
We're still on.
Not the first former LSU athlete to be on camera. Remember, Shaquille O'Neal did Blue Chips in Kazam. Not the first former LSU athlete to be naked on camera. Severnell Singleton. He became a porn star.
What?
He was my favorite when he was at LSU.
So you decided to get out of athletics and go bone on camera.
Yes.
Oh my God. Stop. Okay.
No, I'm dead serious. He
I'm gonna Google this when I'm working with you, but what's his name?
Vernell Singleton.
Sure as hell did.
Look up the name Asante Stone.
No! No!
Uh-huh.
Facebook, Asante Stone. He has the stash and all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Stop.
No, you like, and I loved Vernell Singleton when he was at LSU. But, you know, seeing him penetrate to the hole is something completely different now.
Okay, let me get off this.
See? No. Yeah. I don't need Danielle coming over from HR being like, what are y'all talking about over there?
Oh, no. Oh, no. Okay, back on the phone, y'all. Byron, stop.
716 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. We're going to get down to serious business here in just a second, but before we do, Brie Lynn, was I right to hold off into Facebook Live only and not the on-air audience?
Oh, Lord, we couldn't talk about that
okay,
on the air.
I'm just making sure I made the right call
yes,
there.
you did.
We were responsible and did the right thing.
Yeah, but
Okay.
if you weren't on Facebook, you're missing it.
I know. Facebook Live every single day, courtesy of the folks over at Lake Urgent Care. Okay, this has been a bubbling topic, and it's actually starting to go somewhere, or so it seems. Is it time for Baton Rouge to look at a completely different plan of government? Is it time to start talking about actual deconsolidation from the city-parish form of government? Joining us now is Metro Councilman Rowdy Gaudet. He's been speaking up about this a little bit lately. Councilman Gaudet, welcome back. How are you, sir?
I am well, Mr. Haldane. How is the life of Brian?
Could not be better. Literally could not be better. We had our 100th anniversary here at Guarantee on Monday and did a day of service yesterday over the Greater Baton Rouge Food Bank. And
fantastic.
The teamwork that goes into it. It was almost like a company retreat with zero talk about synergy. We just got together and worked. It was awesome.
That is great, and a great organization. I'm a former board chair over there at the food bank, and a tremendous organization in our community. Great work.
Awesome stuff. All right, let's talk a little bit about deconsolidation. How has this topic been bubbling up a little bit? Because I've heard it from a number of different entities or a number of different angles. So how is it getting on your radar?
Well, the plan of government is actually something since I've been on the council, been focused on. I'll remind folks. Well, let me start with plan of government is our parish's constitution. It's as someone who kind of plays inside baseball on the Metro Council, we talk about it fairly often. I think the average citizen who's going about their daily lives, has never read the plan of government, studied it, that sort of thing. But it is essentially our parish's constitution. It's what establishes our executive branch, our legislative branch, and all of the departments from our consolidated form of government that carry out the services that our local government provides. And so, we look relatively often at the plan of government for how it impacts the way we can go about conducting the business of the council.
Mm-hmm.
And just a couple of years ago, there was an effort to go through that document that our council undertook and make some tweaks, change some positions. We were going to change a chief administrative officer position to a city parish manager role. But the only way to change our parish's constitution is with a vote of the people. And a couple of years ago, that item, the tweaks and the changes, went to a vote of the people, and it did not pass. And so now with this advent of a fifth city, we now have 5 incorporated municipalities in East Baton Rouge Parish.
Mm-hmm.
The topic continues to come up, and I've sort of undertaken, well, let's start to really dive into the specifics of what this would mean. And I don't specifically mean just deconsolidation, though acknowledge that's a form of conversation that folks are starting to have. But, that means things when we talk about separating the city of Baton Rouge from the parish of East Baton Rouge. And those specifics are going to be important to the residents of this parish based on where they live. So, for your listeners, look, we're at the very front of this conversation. Right now, I have more questions than answers. That's what I kind of texted you yesterday was, there's no finality here. We're starting to ask questions, gather data, and this is a conversation we're going to have with the community for, I think, a lengthy period of time.
Oh, yeah.
To lay out, here's what the current form is. Here's what we could do. Here's what other communities across the country have done when they've either reevaluated their form of government or taken apart their existing government. I think those are important pieces of data and information you got to get in front of people.
We're talking with Metro Councilman Rowdy Gaudet about the possibility of deconsolidation. Okay, so this is going to come around from a number of different angles. The first of which I'm always going to look at here, Rowdy, is what are our cops? Who else has done this? Is there any similarities anywhere else where we've seen a city parish form of government deconsolidate, and how did they sift through it?
The short answer is yes, and we need only look an hour west of us. The parish of Lafayette, which once had a city parish form of government and underwent some similar growth in areas outside of Lafayette, made a determination to deconsolidate. Now, let me not claim to be an expert on that. I haven't done the deep dive. They sort of did a half measure of deconsolidation, but Lafayette now has a parish council and a city of Lafayette council. So the answer is yes, other governments have done it, and there are examples to look at. What I would say for us here in East Baton Rouge Parish is, I'm sorry that I don't have the ability to show some numbers, but we've got to start with some of the data and numbers. Look, we've got about 456,000 population here in East Baton Rouge Parish. Now with the incorporated cities of Zachary, Baker, Central, St. George, those four incorporated municipalities, about 33% of that population. So our city parish government, our current form of consolidated government, still represents 2/3, about 67% of the residents of this parish. So from that standpoint, you could say, okay, well, I can see why you would still have this consolidated form of government. Well, my good friend, Danny, who lives in the district that I represent, who calls me often, says, look, Danny says, I'm a citizen of Baton Rouge. Why is someone from Zachary or Central voting to elect who is my mayor? Because that's effectively what's happening with a mayor president. And Danny says to me, rightfully so, I live in Baton Rouge. I don't get to vote on who Zachary's mayor is or who Central's mayor is. And so, from his standpoint, it's I want my own representation, my own more local government. And I understand that. But here is the flip side of that. If you look at, well, what's the unincorporated portions of this parish, those that are not within incorporated municipalities, it's just north of 80,000 people, right? So it's not a huge portion of the population. So if you say, hey, let's go deconsolidate this form of government, you now have to form some form of local representation, some form of government for those 80,000 people, that unincorporated area, the parish that is not represented by a city, by a municipality. So for 80,000 people, what kind of government would you go and create? Well, you would have to need some form of an administrator, some form of a administration, human resources, financials, that sort of thing. You'd need some form of a council. So you're talking about where we're really duplicating some efforts there. So then you dive into the financials and say, does that really make sense for some of the more rural parts of our parish, 80,000 people who are kind of spread all across EBR, to form a separate government for that? And is that the most fiscally responsible thing to do? So again, these are all of the questions I think we need to deep dive into and present it to the public.
Okay, but that's not, you're not saying that the unincorporated areas of the parish would have to be incorporated, because there's plenty of unincorporated areas of Lafayette Parish as well.
That's absolutely accurate. Yes. Now there's discussion of, could you incorporate more within the city boundaries of Baton Rouge and others? But no, I mean, we've got areas in the northeastern part of this parish that are unincorporated. Let me give you some more example here.
Go for it.
Those areas, the northeast part of the parish, that's kind of the Pride, Cheneyville area.
Yeah.
For fire protection in those areas, they pay a separate millage. In fact, millage is plural for fire protection, because Baton Rouge Fire Department only is on city limits. St. George Fire Department is focused on the boundaries that they're created within. So Cheneyville taxes itself to the tune of about just north of 37 mills, because it's not a lot of people that live up there. So they pay additional millage for those fire protection services. It is likely, if you're talking about, well, we've got to provide public works services to those folks as well, you would have to engage in some conversation of how are we going to fund those services and what is that going to look like for the residents that live there. Again, the details of all of this is really, really important. You've got to deep dive into it in order to address all of those. If you're going to go in front of the public and say either, yes, I lean towards we should deconsolidate, or let me convince you why we should continue with the current form of government and either make some tweaks or leave as is.
We got Metro Councilman Rowdy Gaudet on with us for another 4.5 minutes or so as we break down the initial the inklings of the conversation of deconsolidation. Rowdy, if what we've just witnessed with St. George becoming its own incorporated city, the walkthrough of all the things that would belong to St. George versus the things that would belong to the parish, is there not like kind of a rough blueprint of like what's good for one should be good for every city in the parish?
In terms of the services that are provided?
Right.
I think it varies by each. And we, the city parish, are still going through a transitional period with the newly formed city of St. George. Look, they're standing up services as quickly as they are able. And there's this period as a council member now, I get calls all the time and say, look, I need my ditch dug. And I say now, well, you live now in the city of St. George, you no longer call me, here's your new council member. So there's that period of sort of transition for when those services transition. But the way we are set up now within the city of Baton Rouge and the parish of East Baton Rouge, those services are provided by your current form of government. So that's what we would have to evaluate, is what would it mean for the services that are delivered to the residents. We do have some parish-wide services, things like your garbage pickup, things like EMS, that are funded parish-wide. But if we deconsolidate our local form of government, you have to start talking about, well, then other services like your ditch digging, like your maintenance of your drainage. We'd have to talk about how we parse those services out between incorporated and unincorporated areas.
Right. And that's where we were going to run into the devil being the details of all of it, because it's just undoing something that is 80 years worth of built in. And that's not the easiest thing.
That's right. And again, to the example from a couple of years ago, look, the effort undertaken by this Metro Council was to say, this is an old document, the plan of government. It was started, the consolidated form of government, way back in 1947. We need some tweaks to it. And there was an effort, again, to educate the public. Gosh, myself and many other members of this council did numerous public meetings, tried to speak to every nonprofit and organization that was out there. And it was still evident after that vote, people would contact me and say, I just didn't fully understand what was on the ballot, what the issue was, what I was being asked to vote on. So there really needs to be a very thorough conversation with the community if we're going to talk about, we do think there's a better way to deliver services here in East Baton Rouge Parish. And again, at this point, Brian, I'm not advocating for that. I'm simply saying it's worthy for us to put forth an effort and take a look at it and be able to have that discussion with the citizens of this parish to say, using the data and using what information we have, here's what we think is best to present to you. And all options would be on the table. So,
which, I mean, you can't advocate for it yet because we don't know what it's going to look like. So in the meanwhile, we'll keep the discussion rolling. That's why we had you on today. Great job. As always, he's Metro Councilman Rowdy Gaudet. Thank you so much, man.
Thanks for your interest, Brian. Talk to you soon.
Yep, talk to you soon. We're coming up on 7:30 at Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Speaking of different communities, let me remind you about the folks over at Landmark Bank, landmarkbankla.com. Been a community bank since 1897. You'll find them in Zachary. You'll also find them in Brewley or Denham Springs or Clinton. You'll find them in a number of different communities around. Hit up landmarkbankla.com in the About Us tab if you want to find out if they're in your community. And the reason having a community bank is so important, look, if you're a small business owner, you already know. If you went through COVID, the level to which your local banker, your community banker, dove in to keep you afloat, you already know. I don't have to tell you. But when it comes to your personal banking, having a community bank means having a community member, having a neighbor taking care of you as well. Learn more at landmarkbankla.com. Senator Cassidy's next. I'm going to go let Senator Cassidy in the building. He's going to be here in a minute.
Hey.
When he's answering about Julia Letlow with the response to her announcement, yeah, just for so quick reel.
Yep.
Several state lawmakers already announcing they're considering a run for the congressional seat currently held by Letlow. Backwards Republican State Representative Dixon McMakin announced on social media yesterday that he's formed an exploratory committee to hear from voters in order to inform his own decision on the run. And in statement released yesterday, both Republican State Representative Michael Echols and Republican State Senator Stephen Cassidy said they're considering a run.
I should. That church is connected to everybody.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Senator Cassidy, that's Brittany.
Nice to meet you, Brittany. Nice to meet you.
That's Sean. That's Brittany.
Hi.
Brittany, how did you get such black hair? You must be part Chinese.
Native American.
What was that?
Native American.
That's true?
Yep.
Yeah, because my sister-in-law, my daughter-in-law is Chinese ethnicity. And she goes, and her hair is not completely black. And she goes, everybody knows that she must have had something somewhere in
Yeah.
her background.
Yeah.
So the black hair is so attractive.
Everybody says that. They're like, you got Vietnamese or Chinese. And I'm like, no, Native American, but we still have that eye, the eye shape.
No,
It's
you
very
still have that kind of how do you put it? Almond shape.
almond, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because who was that actress that did Bridget's Diary?
Oh, God.
Renee Zellweger.
She had nice almond shape.
Yes. Renee, and she's beautiful.
Hey, brother, how are you?
I'm doing well.
So this
I'm
is
just- yeah, and this is ginormous. We just replaced it with that's an 80-inch screen monitor. It's just a rolling of our sponsors and whatnot.
so what's 18C mean?
No, that's 180 Pros. They're an IT company. They sponsor the studio. So the 180 Pro studio.
Well, you're working it.
Trying
Go
to.
to successful businesses. Now you ought to put the girl with the crown on her head like up there. You know what I'm saying? That's really shit. But the point being is that I go to successful businesses and they're always on the margin trying to improve.
Yeah.
And so every time I walk in, you got something else you're trying to do. But again, get her up and get him down.
That's so. Was that Miss Louisiana?
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely better looking than Dave Ramsey. So. Oh, that's. Oh yeah, you need a water. Okay. Did you want one? Grab one.
Oh, sure. Grab me one.
Oh, and as a reminder, we're always Facebook Live. You know that. So,
And I don't
We'll
need
hit-
the mic. I don't need headphones, huh?
no.
Yeah, I
no,
used
it's
to
just
have
you
them
and me.
here, and now you've taken them away. So, Brittany, where are you from?
Houma, Louisiana.
Oh, so you're a Homachita.
Yeah.
A Chittimacha, huh?
No, I'm Cherokee.
Cherokees were not in Homa.
No, but all my family came from the Tennessee area.
Got
But my mother's half Native American, and I'm before we did the little DNA test. And I lived in Lafayette for about 7 years, worked at 94.5 with Bobby Novosad, and yeah, been around. Never left the state though.
736 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Time to welcome back to the studio Senator Bill Cassidy and with us. How are you, sir?
Brian Haldane, I am fantastic, man. What a gorgeous day. What a beautiful day.
We're prepping for the weekend too. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen what's coming. But yeah, I'll take it where I can get it to be sure. We got a lot of ground to cover. I actually did, for full disclosure, this interview was booked before this week started, so we kind of need to skip ahead a little bit and then skip back around if that's okay
Sounds
with
great.
you. Okay. Heading into the weekend, you got to sit down and break bread with Senate Majority Leader John Thune, picking up a huge endorsement from him. Which, by the way, post-mortem on that trip, how did he like Louisiana?
He loved Louisiana. We go to Phil's Oyster Bar.
Yeah.
And you know, he's from South Dakota.
Right.
And so, and he's got bodyguards with him, you know, that sort of thing. And Phil's brings us out some raw oysters and some charbroiled. I had a sense the guy from South Dakota, you know, he's had mountain oysters, but I didn't think he was going to have regular oysters. But then he tasted the charbroiled.
Yeah.
Whoosh. So he goes through about half of them and finally takes them out to the bodyguards so that they can taste them too. I knew you'd love the charbroiled. How can you not? And then they have something, crab meat cheesecake.
Yeah.
Oh, then he starts hitting that.
Oh, yeah.
So the guy from South Dakota did himself proud.
So, but he's a fit dude. Did you tell him how much butter was in those charbroils?
You know, he actually exercises a lot because
Yeah.
when you see him, it's not like he's eating like a bird.
Right.
You know, he eats like a pro football player,
Yeah.
but he just exercises a lot.
So then the weekend comes, and our president decides to toss his endorsement behind somebody who wasn't even in the race at the time, and then follow up with yesterday morning. Congresswoman Julia Letlow decides she's throwing her hat in the ring. Very open-ended. What was your initial reaction to both?
Julia called me. She said, I respect you. I think you're doing a great job, but I'm going to run. I'm thinking, well, that's kind of a nice endorsement of me. But that said, it doesn't surprise me. It had been rumored for a while. And when you're in this position, you always are ready for whatever comes. Why? Because if the race is about who has worked most creatively, most effectively for our nation and our state, and for the folks listening to this, I'll win. And I'm comfortable with this. It won't be one on endorsements. It's going to be on who's brought us $13 billion in infrastructure spending and who has opposed it. Who has actually worked and had the president sign into law my bill to give law enforcement more tools to fight fentanyl. Who has worked and had the president sign into law my law to give extra resources to help those with addiction and mental illness. That was in the past, I don't know, month or so. And I can go down the list of things after things that I've done. I'll compare my record against my opponents, and I'm going to win.
Senator Bill Cassidy and with us. And the follow-up on that is once you hear the announcement, once her name is added to the mix, how does it change things?
Doesn't change things at all. It was always going to be about my record versus those who are my opponents. Again, there's $1.35 billion that the Trump administration just announced coming to our state to make sure that everyone has access to high-speed, affordable internet. My opponents opposed that when it came up, or else criticized me for supporting it. And it's coming to our state because I was one of the key people working on it. Now, when you get criticized for bringing $1.35 billion to your state to make sure that everyone has access to high-speed, affordable internet, I'll take that criticism.
I mean, maybe I asked the question wrong. I'm asking not just from a doing your. Nobody's expecting anything to change with your seat as the current senator. But when it comes to your approach to the campaign, does it change anything?
Not at all.
Okay.
It's about comparing records.
Mhm.
When you drive to the New Orleans airport, between Kenner and Laplace, there's levees being built.
Mhm.
I got the money for those levees.
Yeah.
I got criticized for bringing money for our levees. And I did it because we flooded there after Ida. And I can go around the state and point time after time. Now, my opponents opposed that, and I supported it. And in some cases, it's only coming to the state because I got the money. Once we compare and contrast, I win.
Senator Bill Cassidy's in with us. We do have a number of things. Like I said, this interview was booked to talk about the job you're doing, not the job you're looking to re-up for. So let's rewind the clock back to Senator Thune coming in. That wasn't just about an endorsement. Y'all have been doing some work together as well that affects a ton of people in Louisiana, specifically, I don't want to say just New Orleans because we have restaurants here too, but the no tax for tips stuff. I find, number one, intriguing. Number two, like a forehead slap as to why didn't we do this before? Talk to me a little bit about where we got to with no tax on tips.
First, let's start. Right now, the economy is tough for a lot of people. I was down in St. James Parish at a Talco aluminum plant. It's the only remaining aluminum plant in the United States. And in 2014, they came to me and they said how the Chinese Communist Party was unfairly competing. And so since 2014, I've been working to help that plant. 500 people employed at St. James making good wages. And finally, they're getting money from the Department of War, both credits and grants, to make sure that the United States of America continues to produce aluminum. They brought me down there to thank me because I was the guy that led the charge. And I spoke to the folks there. And when I was speaking in the town hall, and I said, it's been a tough economy. That inflation has been going up higher than people's wages have been going up. And heads were nodding. Everybody was with me. The question is, how do we make it so that, no, your wages, your take-home pay is even better than the inflation rate. Right. Higher than the inflation rate. So no tax on tips. One of the waitresses at Phil's Oyster Bar, she makes $1,000 a week in tips.
Yeah.
That's good money.
That's really good money.
You stop taxing that, she's got that much more money. Right. Some of those moms have kids. In the Working Families Tax Cuts Bill, which I was key in getting passed, several of my provisions are in there. We made it so that we increase the child tax credit. We also have no tax on overtime. If you're a senior, most likely you won't be paying tax on your Social Security. And for the first time in federal law, if you're a parent and you want your child to go to some place besides a local failing school, or if you want your child to stay in that school but get some after-school tutoring, there's a federal scholarship program. Doesn't take away from public education, but it grants more money to parents who want to send their kids to tutor or to another option. That was my bill, my legislation, first time in federal law. And Scott Bessent, the President's Secretary of Treasury, has been bragging about it, saying how this is such a good portion of the tax cut for working families bill. We are helping folks. I've been helping folks in my state and my country, and that's my goal.
Senator Bill Cassidy is with us. The federal scholarship for the tutoring, that dovetails with what our state's education superintendent, Dr. Kate Brumley, has been working on with that deep dive tutoring, with that deep dosage tutoring. That's something that Louisiana is actively taking advantage of.
And we've got to. But the way this works, if you have more than a $1,500 federal tax obligation, you can just check a box and send it to the scholarship fund. Yeah. And the state opts into it. And when the state opts into it, then we'd now have money in a scholarship granting organization to help somebody who might want to go to their local parochial school, but they couldn't afford to go to the Catholic school before, as an example, or to get that after-school tutoring. Again, a federal program that I led the charge on, that the president brags about, good for parents, good for our state, good for our nation.
Love when news crosses streams between different interviews. Last week we had our Attorney General Liz Murrill on talking about the abortion drugs being sent through the mail. Doctor out in California, send them to the St. Tammany Parish. Meanwhile, at the very same time, you chaired a hearing last week for the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee Was that the same hearing that Attorney General Merle was at, or was it a similar thing, like same topic, different room?
Same hearing. I invited General Merle. She did a fantastic job. The people promoting these pills act like it's like taking nothing more than a Tylenol.
Right.
And so one of the things we wanted to do is say, no, it ain't taking a Tylenol. There's a real potential for complications. And we did that because to kind of push for, under the Biden administration, Biden did away with the requirement that that the expectant mother have an in-person visit with the doctor prescribing the pill. Did away with that. For whatever reason, President Trump, he said he was going to get rid of that, but he's kept it in place. But why is that important? The doctor in California, he doesn't know if the young person's being coerced into taking the pill by a mother or a boyfriend, as has happened. He doesn't know if the girl is actually 20 weeks pregnant, not 10.
Right.
You're not supposed to take it after week 10. And so we're trying to get that in-person visit back. And lastly, I wanted to humanize it. I wanted to talk about the girl in Point Coupee Parish who was going to have a reveal gender party, and instead her mother got the pills over the internet, coerced her into taking them, and instead of having a gender reveal party, she had a dead baby in a toilet.
Oh my.
Now, you got to humanize it. And you're not supposed to take it after week 10 because the baby in the womb is too big to pass by that point. But women are getting these, or sometimes boyfriends are getting them, as in Texas, slipping it into their food. And then at week 20, they're actually getting the pill and the child's too big to pass. Right. And there's complications afterwards. We've got to inform. We've got to get that in-person visit back. And you do that by bringing humanity to the issue.
Well, and I mean, on top of that, you're a doctor. I mean, can you imagine a scenario where as a doctor, you would have that lack of oversight with, there's no one-on-one with the patient?
There's some guy in California just writing scripts over the internet,
right?
Beyond the reach of the law, breaking laws in our state. He's making money doing it. I hate to say it, but even in medicine, there's people driven only by money.
Sure. When I talked to with Attorney General Merle about those, I don't see how that's not malpractice. Regardless of your abortion laws, I don't see how that, what's different in California versus here. At the end of the day, he's not doing his job.
So there's OBGYN senator from Kansas, Roger Marshall, and he's on the HELP committee. And he was asking the Democratic witness, because apparently, ideally you say, okay, when was your last period? The OB says that to the patient. And she'll say, okay, it's 3 months ago or 2 months ago or a month ago. And you can kind of time the pregnancy. But he said there's sometimes when people come in and they're like week 30 and they don't know they're pregnant. I've read once of a woman who was heavy, so it kind of masked the pregnancy, but delivered without knowing she was pregnant. And so now that's not common, but it happens. Okay. And the whole reason to come in for that initial visit is to do the ultrasound and to get an idea of just how far along the baby is in the womb. And of course, that means if the baby's beyond 10 weeks, it's not going to be safe for the mother to take the abortion pill. Of course, it's never safe for the child, but it's not going to be safe for the mother. That's being lost when all you're doing is sending things over the internet without, by the way, a man can order those over the internet. Michael Smith, for example, I'm making that name up, can order over the internet, and that's what's happened in our state.
That's insane. One more before we get you out of here, and I need you to, admittedly, I need you to help me connect the dots on this one. How in the world is Gulf Red Snapper connected to Mexican cartels?
Mexican cartels, those criminal cartels that traffic people and traffic humans and drugs, people and drugs, are into everything. They've got a lock on avocados, as an example. They go to the avocado farms and they threaten the owners unless the cartels get a cut of the action. They're going into the Gulf and they're sweeping up our red snapper. Now, we've got those fisheries are regulated for the commercial, for the recreational. We want to make sure the population continues to go and thrive.
Right.
The cartels, as part of their criminal activities, will sweep through and then dump the red snappers into the U.S. market.
Okay.
Now it's going to put our commercial guys out of business. It's going to have less fish and less sustainable population for our recreational.
Right.
And by the way, they use that money to fund their criminal organizations. These are the same cartels President Trump wants to send our military after. And now they're in the Gulf sweeping away, ignoring environmental regulations. So I led a letter, had every senator from the Gulf Coast sign, calling for increased scrutiny and action by the executive branch against these cartels who are messing up an ecosystem, putting people out of business, and funding their other criminal activities.
Unbelievable. You never think of how, well, it's going to sound like I'm complimenting, but how thorough they are.
No, the cartels are, I had a friend once after Katrina, George Kennedy, who's the brother of John Kennedy, the senator, and he's just as funny as George. And when they couldn't get supplies into New Orleans after Katrina, he goes, "Hey man, just give it to the cartels. They can get cocaine and give them water."
Unbelievable.
A little gallows humor.
No, well, you kind of have to. I said thorough. I probably should have used the word invasive. So, Senator Bill Cassidy, man, I appreciate you carving out a couple minutes for us this morning. What's the rest of your time in town looking like? When are you heading back to D.C.?
So I'll be in D.C. Next week and just working, going around visiting people. Yesterday went to a Talco. Before that, went to Premier Concrete in Livingston Parish. What an operation. Those guys in Livingston are doing fantastic, shipping stuff across the nation. They ship stuff to Canada. They ship stuff, and they're, by the way, some of the bridges they're building is related to the infrastructure money I got for our state. $6.9 billion and more for roads and bridges, which, by the way, my opponents opposed. And they are just going gangbusters using their technology to build bridges faster and less expensive. Good for Livingston Parish.
He is Senator Bill Cassidy. I appreciate you carving out a couple minutes this morning. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks, sir. Absolutely.
We blew right past your money now, and I don't even apologize for it. We're going to take a quick break. We'll check traffic. We will continue next on Talk 107.3.
Thank you, brother.
Kill mics. Thank you.
Do you want me to send an interview to Jeff Palermo?
Yeah.
7:55, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. He's dialed in. It's just separate commentary, my own commentary here, not talking about the race itself. He's dialed in. He's in game mode right now, y'all. That was really good.
That was intense.
Really good.
It was good.
13 and a half minutes right there. So, the abortion drug thing just gets under my skin every time. Forget about your stance on pro-life or pro-choice. Forget about that for just a minute, and look at it through the lens of, if you are a doctor and you are prescribing a drug that will end a pregnancy, and you have zero oversight over managing that or guiding that along the way. So I appreciate his work on that front, to be absolutely sure. By the way, him talking about a Talco and whatnot. Oh, you know what? That's a good time for me to remind you about the folks over at Industry Makes. IndustryMakes.org is their website. What is Industry Makes? Glad you asked that question, because I have a very good answer. There has been a concerted effort to take shots at the industries that we have in Louisiana. Manufacturing, oil and gas, chemical, whatever it is up and down the river. Our manufacturing sector and the businesses that support them can't just sit idly by while people are taking shots at them and groups are taking shots at them. So Industry Makes is a co-branding toolkit that allows businesses and associations that it's there for them to use and complement with their own advocacy and branding efforts to show a united front and a shared benefit from industry's presence in the community. If you want to learn more, check out industrymakes.org. Industrymakes.org. Let others make noise. We'll make everything else that Industry Makes. Now, appreciate Senator Cassidy's time right there. Good stuff from him. He is on the campaign trail for Senate, and so is Julia Letlow, which means Julia Letlow has to move from the House over to the Senate. You got to pick one. They're on the same ballot, right? Well, that's going to leave an open District 5 seat. State Representative Dixon McMakin is shown interest in that. He will join us at 8:15 to talk about it. Also coming up next hour, State Representative Mike Melerine going to talk about insurance. We have seen some significant drops from a number of different companies right there. How many more will we see? What is next on the agenda to keep that momentum moving in the right direction? Mike Melerine at 8:35. So a couple of state reps next hour, Dixon McMakin and Mike Melerine. Meanwhile, keeping one eye on what's coming this weekend. Y'all, have you looked at the forecast for this weekend? It is going to get nasty real fast. There is a winter storm watch already in effect for most of North Louisiana. I mean, technically we're in South Louisiana, so I don't know how bad we're going to get it here, but I was looking at our particular forecast, and our chance of getting ice is continuing to rise. Our news partners at the Louisiana Radio Network talked to, they have LRN meteorologist Bill Jackaman. He says a blast of Arctic air is going to mix with moisture on Friday.
It will be cold enough for sleet to mix in with the rain in northern areas, and that sleet will mix with freezing rain, and that sleet and freezing rain threat will be for all of northern Louisiana.
So Jackman says that the icy conditions are also possible in southwest Louisiana, in particular the Lake Charles and Lafayette areas.
By the weekend, the temperatures get cold enough that some inland areas in southwestern Louisiana could see some sleet and freezing rain as we get towards Saturday into Saturday night.
So what we're looking at here right now, in Baton Rouge, 50-50 shot at rain on Saturday, 50-50 shot at rain on Friday, 85% chance of rain on Saturday, and then it scales back or rolls out, 60% chance of rain on Sunday, and as Sunday wears on, that's when it'll roll back and roll out a little bit. Thing is, if you're looking at whether or not we're going to get any snow or ice or sleet or whatever, I'm looking at those high temps. The high on Friday is 67 with an overnight low of 51. So it's going to be not warm, but nowhere close to freezing. Saturday is when we go from 63 all the way down to 32 in the overnight and a high of 37 on Sunday. That's when you're going to see it. Hour 3 is next. Debbie, sorry, I was not in the chat at the time that the senator was on. I had my notes for that interview on my phone, so I was reading off of my notes as well. What are we doing? Okay, so we bailed on ABC a minute early? Okay.
Sorry, I'm editing this, Cassidy, with a template.
This report is sponsored by Capital One. Earn unlimited double miles on every purchase with the Capital One Venture X business card. Big purchasing power means spend more, earn more. Capital One Venture X business card. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
This report comes to you from the Talk 1073 Traffic Center.
This is Adrienne Holly with Leak Windows, your window and door headquarters, leakwindows.com.
Very open in Talk 1073 weather.
It is not near as cold this morning, and we're seeing a lot of clouds. This will eventually turn into some increased rain chances, especially later in the day. We'll see some isolated showers out there. Most of these just light to moderate rain, but will bring some slip roads during that evening. Highs will be near 66. Overnight lows coming up to 54 degrees. More isolated showers for first day highs at 7. I'm meteorologist Malin Rogers with your storm station forecast. WBOZ Channel 2.
We're not done yet. More news, more newsmakers, and more business. Hour 3 of Mornings with Brian Haldane. Snapchat, and now really podcast.
805 Talk 1073 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Hour 3 coming your way right now. Brian here with you, Bree Lynn producing. We are starting off the 8 o'clock hour at 54 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge as we broadcast live from the 180 Pros studio. 180 Pros, is it time for your IT to do a 180? Visit 180pros.com. Busy hour this hour. Got a couple of state reps hopping on board with us. Next segment, Dixon McMakin. As Julia Letlow moves over to the Senate race, that leaves a vacancy in her House seat. Dixon wants in. We'll talk about it coming up in just a little bit. Also this hour, Mike Melerine talking about the progress that's been made on the insurance front, not just homeowners, but car insurance as well. How do we capitalize on said progress? How do we keep our foot on the gas and make sure we are moving forward to continue to see rate drops and more business coming into Louisiana that want to do business when it comes to specifically homeowners insurance. Tim Temple has said repeatedly, and I think anybody with half a brain for economics would agree, that the way to get lower prices is to get more competition. Everyone's on that page, right? Well, what are we doing to make sure we have more competition, which will drive down prices? We'll talk with Mike Melerine about that. Right now, though, before we get to anything else, though, it is time for This Day in History.
in the year 1861, Jefferson Davis of Mississippi and 4 other Southern senators resigned. This was during the U.S. Civil War.
Yeah. Jefferson Davis would go on to be the president of the Confederacy.
Yeah, way
Yeah.
back in the day. You know, just
Is his
yesterday.
house still there? I haven't been to Biloxi in years. Is
I
his house
think-
still there?
I think Katrina might
Did
have.
it?
It might
What
have.
was it called? Beauvoir. Let's see. You keep going. I'm going to look this up.
I'm curious too.
Okay, but keep going.
1977, U.S. President Jimmy Carter pardons almost all Vietnam War draft evaders.
Still there.
It's still there. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. 1978.
Wait, pardon who?
Pardon almost all Vietnam War draft evaders.
Evaders. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I
Nope.
mispronounced.
Sorry.
1978, Bee Gees album Saturday Night Fever goes number 1. Stand alive.
Banger.
Stand alive.
Every track on there. Seriously, there is not. It was just like the top of disco across the board.
Yes, it was.
Between all the Bee Gees tracks and the Casey and the Sunshine Band and
Good stuff.
Oh, what's the one that it's such a good song, but it clears the dance floor every time you play it at a wedding. Like people will
Not Staying Alive, huh?
No, Disco Inferno.
Okay.
You want to clear a dance floor? Play Disco Inferno. For some reason, Disco Inferno comes on, everyone goes to the bar. It's time to re-up on the drink. I don't know what it is. I've been DJing since 1997. Can't tell you how many weddings I've done. If I put on Disco Inferno, forget about it.
You're kidding.
No,
wow.
I'm not
Okay. 1983. President Reagan certifies El Salvador human rights abuses have decreased, making the country eligible for U.S. military aid.
Okay.
1987, the second Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees on that list: Aretha Franklin, Marvin Gaye, B.B. King, Ricky Nelson, Smokey Robinson,
Okay.
Joe Turner, Hank Williams. All right. 1998, Pope John Paul II makes the first visit to Cuba, strengthening the Catholic Church and leading to the restoration of Christmas as a public holiday.
Okay.
2010, my favorite guy ever in the game, LA Lakers forward Kobe Bryant becomes the youngest NBA player to reach 25,000 career points at only 31 years old. Beats Wilt Chamberlain by 35 days.
Okay.
In 2017, more than 2 million people protest worldwide in the Women's March against Donald Trump, with 250,000 marching in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
2024, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis pulls out of the 2024 U.S. presidential race.
Okay.
Goodness, can't talk today. And this day in history, last year, the historic and rare record-breaking snowstorm blanketed all of South Louisiana. 7 to 8 inches reported between New Orleans and Baton Rouge. New Orleans saw up to 8 inches officially recorded at the airport.
Yep. I lived in the building for a couple days. I was up here. Because once you were in, wherever you're going, once you were in, right?
Right.
And yeah, just kind of stayed here. Had that little, the World War II space heater was working overtime.
The World War II
For
space heater.
Have you seen it? It's in my office.
No,
It's
I have to come look at it.
It's old. It's so old.
So I remember we knew it was coming, like maybe 24 hours out. Jimmy, because I'm on the sister station, the Tiger. I had the iPad. I had an iRig. I was at home in my bed doing my show.
Yeah,
because the power
up
up radio. Well, you couldn't go anywhere, so I was stuck.
I understand. That's must have been nice. Hey, this day in 1506, this day in 1506 was the first time the Swiss guards arrived at the Vatican. Yeah, they took duty in 1506. And this day in 2007 was the day that I started hating the Chicago Bears.
Oh.
Yep. Chicago.
Yeah, I remember. Wait. Yes, with the Saints.
Yeah. Chicago defeats New Orleans in the NFC Championship game. In them winning that thing 39-14, but holding up signs that said Chicago will finish what Katrina started. Yeah.
I was pissed.
Yeah.
I was mad.
Pound sand. And you had Speaker Gingrich, right? Okay. On this day in 1987, Newt Gingrich became the first speaker in the history of the U.S. House of Representatives to be given a formal reprimand for ethics violations. So, yeah. Oh, they came after him hard.
Man,
Yeah.
okay.
Birthdays.
We have Luke Grimes. He is famous from Yellowstone, 50 Shades. Let's see. Christian Dior.
Yeah.
He's that whole fashion designer. He has a birthday today, and nobody else I really recognize on this list. What you got?
I got a couple of them. Paul Allen. It's his birthday today. He was born in 1953. Eric Holder was born in 1951. Placido Domingo, born in 1941. Also add to that list, Jack Nicklaus, born on this day in 1940. Detlef Schrempf, if you want to take a deep dive in the 90s NBA, born on this day in 1963. And Hakeem Olajuwon, also born on this day in 1963.
All right, deaths, unfortunate deaths on this day. Let's see. The only thing I really don't recognize this. Connie Sawyer, she died in 2018. She was a TV and film actress. Ann Sheridan, she passed away in 1967, also an actress.
Okay. And as we mentioned earlier in the show, Billy Nungesser's old man, who's also named Billy Nungesser, passed away on this day in 1996.
National Day today, Personalized Learning Day. Well, what's it have to be personalized?
I don't know. No clue at all.
We'll run with it. Why not?
All right. Quick break. When we come back, Dixon McMakin looking to move from District 68 to District 5. How's that work? Well, looking to move from the state rep to U.S. rep. We'll talk about it next. Damn it. How are you, sir? Rimmed out right there.
I got that on the air, too.
Yeah. Oh, man. Oh. So, I mean, you doing this or like you just testing the water or what's?
Garrett's out. Garrett's out.
Okay. Garrett's out. Yes, please. $8:16, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Okay, so last hour we were talking a little bit about Julia Letlow diving into the U.S. Senate race. We had Senator Bill Cassidy in studio. Well, if Julia Letlow's moving away from the District 5 congressional seat, someone's going to be moving into it. Expressing a little bit of interest on that front is District 68 State Representative Dixon McMakin. How are you, sir?
Hey, good morning, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you on here. Let's talk a little bit about Well, we can talk a little bit about process and decision making, because this is not a move that you just snap your fingers and do. So you've expressed a little bit of interest in it. Talk to me a little bit about where you are on that discernment process.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. So yesterday morning, Letlow announced she's running for Senate. So that was the first domino that had to fall for a lot of people that are looking at the District 5 seat. Of course, it stretches from Monroe, Louisiana, the north through Baton Rouge over to Washington Parish, and happens to be the district I live in. Monroe roots run deep for me at Neville High School up there, and was looking at the map, talking to people. And then now the decision for me is to wait and see what Congressman Garrett Graves does. You know, I think Garrett would make a phenomenal congressman. Again, I've supported him from the very beginning back in 2014 when he first ran back in that race. And so now we wait to see what he decides to do. In Congress, you don't have to technically live in your district to run for it.
Okay.
But I do live in District 5, the way they drew the new map now, with a majority of the district being in East Baton Rouge Parish and representing the part of the parish that I represent now in District 68 and other parts that I've lived in really my whole life. And so the opportunity to serve is something you don't take lightly. I don't think you just jump in because you think you are entitled to the seat or you've done certain things. I put out an exploratory committee yesterday, shot a video in Monroe talking about those routes, and now I'm getting the feedback from all over the state, all over District 5, if I'm the kind of person that they want to represent them. You know, at the Louisiana Capitol, bold, positive change. They know what I stand for up there, that I'm not a guy, if you tell me that's the way we've always done things, that's what we're going to do. I hear that. That's a calling card to me to say, let's go change that. So been there 2 years, served the people of Baton Rouge. I think I've done pretty well. I'm really proud of some of the accomplishments that I've gotten through, some of the things I'm still working on to this day. And now we wait to see what Garrett does. And it's pretty much at this point, it's official, Brian, that if Garrett's out, I'll be in.
Okay.
But I wait for Garrett.
Okay. So I the follow-up to that has got to be why. Why do you wait for someone else before choosing your own path?
Yeah, I think the wait is because, first off, he served. First off. Second off, I've supported him, and I think he's a phenomenal congressman. He would go back up there with seniority, with the knowledge he already has, which would put District 5 ahead of the game for that, to have someone going up there that has that knowledge. We don't have anybody right now that has congressional experience, right? If anyone's running, if they're another elected official, if they're a person that serves, whatever that might be, he's the only one that's been in the building, been in the room. And so Louisiana would benefit from having him back up there, I think. And so that's the main thing for me, is who's the best person for the job to be for District 5 and to represent all of District 5 from north to the south.
So that's twice now you've said all of District 5, because here in Baton Rouge, it's weird because District 5 is understood as kind of a Monroe seat. But the way that the district has been remapped, we're in Baton Rouge, kind of the heart of it. But like in Baton Rouge, we have numerous congressional seats that run through here, but none that belongs to us. So if you're in Baton Rouge, you look, east down 12 and Washington Parish, John Weibel country out there. That's part of District 5.
Beth Mizell as well, Senator Beth Mizell.
Of course, Senator Beth Mizell. Yes. Golly, my apologies. I figure if I was going to pick one, it's going to be Weibel. Come on. But if you look north, then you're going up that way as well. So it's a unique position that you're kind of in the corner of it. But population-wise, there's a big chunk of it. So much different ground, so many different needs, so many different interests to cover. How can you be a representative for all of it?
Yeah, I think that goes back to your principles and what kind of person you are. I ran for state rep on a business background that I am, financial advisor, lawyer, insurance broker, stood for bold, positive change. And my themes were always the same things: efficiency, effectiveness, accountability, and transparency. So whatever that might be, even this, morning at Mass, I had someone come up to me, they work in a butcher shop, and they say, hey man, in 2016, they took off the tags of meat and meat products in our country. They took that off. So we've had a big import of meat come in here that's hurting our cattle industry, that's hurting our farmers. So you take something, he tells me that here in Baton Rouge. As a businessman, he tells me that. And then now as I travel District 5 and I'm talking to those cattlemen that are out there on the Washington Parish side, St. Helena, Livingston, Tangipahoa, and then up through District 5 to the north and all the parishes up there, Ouachita, Carroll, and all the ones that are going on, Avoyles, you got all the ones, Franklin, everything that's along the river, pretty much. You take that business background that I have and you apply it to their practical needs. And that's why I will consistently talk about someone that can represent all of District 5. And with the roots in Monroe that I have, the Baton Rouge guy that I am, family on the North Shore. The map works very well for me to say, I think I could do it well. And that's what I've asked the people to do. Go to DixonMcMakin.com, fill out my survey, give me your comments. It has been overwhelming the past, 12 hours, give or take, whatever it is, hearing from people in all these different areas saying, yes, I'm in. Hey, you want to come have an event? I got you. This city is my city, this parish. I know this person, that person. Let me connect you. And just the domino effect of that, asking the people for their input and not just straight coming out and saying, I'm going to do this. See what Garrett says, get the input from the people, and then make the decision.
State Representative Dixon McMakin is our guest. We're talking about the discernment process, if you will, about making the jump over into running for Congress, running for that District 5 seat that's currently held by Congresswoman Julia Letlow. Dixon, I got to ask you, as you're getting your name out there, I mean, we know you here, and we've known you for some time here, but as you're getting your name out there, it's going to be, the topics are going to come up is like, what's your specialty? What do you do better? Like, what do you concentrate on more than it? Like Julia Letlow was education. We talked with Dr. Cassidy. He was a doctor before he was a senator. Like, what is Dixon McMakin's wheelhouse?
Yeah, I'd say it's business, right? I'm a Series 7 licensed financial advisor, an insurance broker, and I do estate law. So I think I've already had discussions with the banking industry, the people that we see a lot of times on the Commerce Committee that I serve on in the House right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so taking those principles, look, affordability is a big thing right now on the national level that we see right here in our state. That comes down to business dollars and cents,
right.
Is what it comes down to. In having that finance brain that I have translates across all industries. So I think that would be the big one you'd see from me. And then, of course, on government efficiencies. I was so proud of the governor last week when he talked about LaDoge and the work they've done. Yeah. We've talked about it for a long time. Our traffic is terrible, right? We're going to tear down Washington Street. It's getting closed down. We're literally waiting on a sign right now to get that done, by the way.
Really?
That's all we're waiting on. We're waiting on the sign to get manufactured and come in. But just 2 years up at the Capitol, I've already gotten the Washington Street to get shut down. But you might hate DOTD, but really who you need to hate is the FHWA, the Federal Highway Administration.
Yeah.
So getting up there and being on their asses. Hey, you guys are restricting us. We're trying to have industry come to Louisiana, all these great projects that Susan Bourgeois is talking about with LED. Over $100 billion is coming into Louisiana, but they need to be able to move around. So we need the infrastructure. So I would think the business and the infrastructure that you've already seen me tackle at the Louisiana Capitol is what I would try to focus on when I get up to Washington, if that's what happens.
All right. So following up on that, there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve here in a short election cycle. We have, with the closed primaries, you've only got until May before we're going to the polls. So how do you balance those two things with, it's such a convoluted district. If you live in Washington Parish, you literally have to leave the state to go visit the home base or as it were, before. But as you map out this very short period of time, how do you manage the learning curve to learn, the needs of the folks of Monroe versus the needs of the folks of Franklin?
And I think that's obviously doing the exploratory committee right now and hearing from people in those different areas. Have already heard almost from someone in every parish that I personally know that lives there, works there, and wants to help me understand the true needs of that area. And that's part of this process, is talking to them and hearing from them and saying, can I understand that? Can I relate with you? Okay. Empathy is having the actual ability to have gone through it with them. Sympathy is trying to understand it from an outsider's perspective. So for those areas that I may not be living in at the time, trying to have that sympathy with them, but then going back to the empathy of working in a small business, doing the business background, the infrastructure challenges, and taking that with you as you go. And so the discernment process is, can you relate? Are you relatable? And really what I've asked the people, and I think anyone that's listening to your show and considering this, is that the type of person that we want representing District 5 in the U.S. Congress? What kind of person do you want? Do you want my kind of version, which is bold, positive change? People know that when I write a bill, it's not usually just a license plate bill or something. It's big time stuff. We're going to have a couple bills this year to repeal some agencies and go for it, a bill to get rid of the income tax. I believe that government needs to act like a business. We need to be more efficient, more effective. That doesn't start with just talking about it. Put the bills out there. Be bold. Be positive. Go for the change. That's what I believe in, and we'll see if District 5 wants that.
So I'm glad you brought up bold, positive change at the state capitol, because right smack dab in the middle of this campaign is going to be a legislative session. And you have been, I would say, vocal about wanting to push towards a constitutional convention. What happens to those plans? I mean, are we still pushing forward there?
Yes, I mean, I'm still a state rep. I'm still work my job. I still do everything you do. It just, you add on now. You don't really from 7 to 7. You're out there doing something that might involve a congressional race as well. But yeah, House Bill 4 is the constitutional convention bill. We're having discussions now in the House and Senate what to do with that bill. You've had so many people on your show, Brian, probably hundreds of candidates at this point. Can you name me one of them that has ever not wanted to redo the Constitution?
Oh, no.
Absolutely.
No, I can't.
So they keep talking about it. They keep doing it. Well, I'm saying, look, here's the bill. Here's the process. Let's go do it. Let's not be scared anymore, Louisiana, of our past failures and the things we have yet to edit. Be bold. Be positive. Go for the change. And that's what I'm going to try to accomplish.
We got 2 minutes left with State Representative Dixon McMakin. And following up on that, all the names of possibilities of those who might be running, I've heard nothing but state legislators so far. So everybody's going to be pretty much in the same boat. And oh, by the way, Louisiana, you ever see an athlete in a contract year? It's kind of similar if you've got a state legislator who's campaigning at the same time. That's when you're going to get the performance out of them. That's my own editorial. But everybody's going to be kind of in the same boat here. So you're all working under the same timeline, same deadlines.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've heard from other senators, other reps that are considering running as well, just like I am. I don't think anyone has officially announced yet in the legislature. I don't think so. Probably some of that will come this week or the next week with Washington Mardi Gras next week. So we'll all be in the same boat. But, someone mentioned to me, like, are you going to be able to serve? I said, I'm not missing a day at the Capitol.
Right.
I was elected to serve the people of District 68. I'm going to be there. Now, in my off time, yeah, I'm going to be traveling District 5, but I'm going to be there. You'll see me in the committees. You'll see me in the House floor. You'll see me going for these big initiatives that I think our state needs. We're getting better in education. We're getting better in the tax policy, but we can't keep losing to the other states.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to go for.
All right, last one before we get you out of here. We got 1 minute left with Dixon McMakin. You have embedded in the people of your district the Eatin' Great in 68. It's great. It rhymes. It gets people out and enjoying. Have you been able to take on the possibility of what District 5 looks like for the tagline there?
You never forget your first. Eating great in 68. Obviously, people around the state even mention it to me when they eat here. So there are some people that have texted me in this process of what's your 5 going to be?
Right.
If you do that, nothing is quite as good as eating great in 68. I don't know if we will have a slogan, but you'll see me around at all the restaurants and food and try to stay fit as I can do this.
But you are staying fit. You lost a couple pounds in the last couple of years and whatnot. So, looking svelte.
Thank you.
There it is. Looking svelte in the Delta.
Okay. For those listening, the eye roll was epic right there.
Oh, my gosh.
Head to DixonMcMakin.com. I appreciate that. Loving the feedback. And, of course, we'll see what will happen. And just hope to serve you well. I hope to make everybody proud.
Appreciate you coming in today. He's State Representative Dixon McMakin. I'll see you up in Washington next week.
Yes, sir.
Awesome stuff. Always appreciate the time. Thank you so much. 8:30, Talk 107.3 FM. We're going to talk to another state rep in just a little bit. Mike Melerine going to join us. That progress that Dixon was talking about on the insurance front. How do we keep our foot on the gas? That's what's next. You love it. You're going to steal it.
Thank you.
Anytime, sir. Always. Always. Oh. The All the politics today, and I've yet to mention my good friend Danny over at 5 Star Printing and Signs, 225-271-4096, 271-4096 for 5 Star Printing and Signs. It's about to ramp up, y'all. Been telling you, it's a busy, busy calendar for elections, and this is Danny's wheelhouse, y'all. This is where he steps in, turns the hips, and drives at 350 to left center every single time. 271, of course, it's 225-271-4096 if you are considering running for any race. I mean, think about it. If Dixon wins and moves over, his seat's going to be empty. Or if any of the state legislators that move over, their seat's going to be empty. It's going to be a busy, busy year on the political front. So candidates, anybody who's thinking about running, give Danny a call or check him out at printshop5.com. Speaking of politics, well, we'll move over from politics to actual governance, and that's making sure this machine keeps running. State Representative Michael Melarine's on with us. How are you, sir?
Good morning. Thanks for having me. I'm doing well.
Glad to have you on here, and glad to be having the conversation we're having, because we're about to talk insurance, and we are finally getting somewhere. So, we always talk about, a couple things get done, a couple things get done here, a couple things get done there. We're finally getting somewhere. Can you bring us up to speed on everything that has accumulated to get us where we are? And then we'll pivot the conversation on where we need to be.
Yeah. So, look, in the past few months, if you've paid attention, either to press, news, or sometimes, and hopefully at your bill, you've seen majority or not a majority, a large assortment of companies have granted reductions in premiums on personal auto. And I say a majority because State Farm and Progressive, which together insure close to 50% of the market, just in the past few weeks have both announced that they're reducing premiums on personal auto policies. Mm-hmm. You add in the other 20 plus companies that have announced it over the past few months, and I think you do get to a majority of the state on their personal side that has seen a decrease in their premiums. And that's something that outside of COVID, we haven't seen in, I couldn't tell you the last time, if ever. And so to your point, like, we're starting to see it. We're not there yet, and I'm not going to claim victory, but when the single largest insurer in the state says, I'm going to reduce premiums on average 7.5%, that's big. And that's something that we've never seen before. And that's something that the people that brought these bills last year, myself and all my colleagues that brought these bills, we said, look, we're not just telling you this. We're looking at what happened in other states that took some of these reforms on and did reforms. And that's what they saw. And now we're starting to see it. Now, the crazy part is, and I checked just now, 2 of the bigger bills didn't go into effect until January 1.
Right.
And that was Rep. Chenevire's bill from down in Baton Rouge, and then Senator Mike Reese's bill. Those 2 bills are 2 of the bigger ones, and we're 21 days in from when they started. So they haven't even started taking effect yet. And we're already seeing it. And so I'm really encouraged at what we're seeing and the market and where we're going.
State Representative Michael Melarine's with us. We're talking about the improvements on the insurance front. And Mike, you mentioned it, like, we're not seeing like a 2% reduction for some random company that carries 10,000 policies. We're seeing like 8 to 12% reductions from $250,000 policyholder. Like this, we're getting big chunked here.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's State Farm, it's Progressive, it's Farm Bureau, it's
right.
Allstate. Like, all of these companies have come in and said, Mr. Insurance Commissioner, we want to file for a rate reduction. And to your point, like, this is not like small chunks. Like, State Farm by itself insures somewhere between 1/4 and 1/3 of the private market on the auto side in the state. Mm-hmm. And so for them to do that, I forgot the exact number of policyholders, but that's a large chunk of the state that has, just by them saying we're going to file for a rate reduction.
Yeah,
it's going to see some relief.
No, absolutely. So let's pivot this over to, and we're going to get to homeowners in a little bit, but let's pivot this over to the intel side. What kind of intel accumulation do we have when it comes to talking to these companies to find out what specifically y'all did that triggered them to move forward, because once we have that information, we can follow up with, more of the good stuff.
Yeah, and look, I'm not going to claim that I've talked to everybody, so I'm not the end all be all this. The insurance commissioner can tell you in much more detail. But just from what I've talked to people, they've said, one, it's just the signal of y'all are finally serious about doing something. Like, y'all are serious about taking on reform and bringing meaningful relief to the customers, to the policyholders, to allowing us to come in and say, look, by all means, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, if somebody's involved in an accident and they are injured, they should be compensated for that injury. Like, absolutely, end of story, no debate. But it's where you're getting to the abuses and where you're using systems that were designed in the 70s, 80s, 90s. And now we realize, okay, that worked then, it doesn't work now. We need to make changes to bring us up to modern day times. And that's what these are. And so a lot of what you're seeing is not that our policies have come in and have had this impact. Like I said, 2 of them went into effect 3 weeks ago.
Right.
A lot of it is just the signal of, okay, Louisiana is finally taking this serious. Louisiana is doing what it needs to do to attract more companies in. And that's the biggest thing, is by bringing competition into the state. And if you have more companies here, it's going to put a downward pressure because there's more people, there's more options. And that's one of the biggest things you can do as a personal, like if you're shopping around and you're up for renewal, is go look. Like personally, I was with the same company for 10 years, same agent. And it was because 10 years ago, he gave me the best rate.
Right.
And when I came up for renewal in the fall, he came to me and said, hey, look, I know you've been with this one company for so long. I can shop around and see. And we did. I went to 3 and 4 different places and shopped, and I was able to reduce my personal auto by somewhere between 25 and 50%. Wow. Just by shopping. And so it was somebody that I would have never thought to look for. He knew what to do. And so I can't tell you how many people that I've talked to that have said, oh, I shopped and I saved 10%, 15%, 20%, 50%, whatever it is. But that's the biggest thing you can do, because there's these companies that have come in that we don't know about, that you wouldn't think to look at. And if you talk to, whether it's an independent agent, whether it's somebody that's tied to an insurance company, just look around, because the options are there, and you can save money by just looking at your options and exploring. Now, looking forward, once we get in further into this and some of these reforms do start to take hold,
right,
I'm interested to see where we're at, because what we're seeing right now is just, okay, some of the reforms have started to take effect. If you talk to the insurance commissioner, you look at the statistics, and if you talk to insurance companies, they're seeing fewer claims. That doesn't have to do with our policies that we've implemented, anything like that. Just for some reason, and I don't know why, there have been fewer claims. Maybe it's Louisiana residents have realized if you get into a fender bender, this isn't your ticket for $1 million claim.
Right.
And have realized that if you file a claim like that, you're going to drive up in your own insurance rate and everybody else in the state. So I'm encouraged that we have fewer claims. I mean, if you look at all the statistics, we're double national average on claims. And that's a cultural shift that has to happen. And I don't know if it's happening, but the numbers that we're seeing recently are showing that they're down. And so that's a very encouraging sign, because if you pair people making fewer claims, fewer of these frivolous claims, and you pair it with the reforms that we've made, you can see not just half the market coming in and giving reductions, but you can see more. Or some of those companies that did give you a reduction can come back and give you even more. So that's what we're starting to see. And that's what I'm interested to see what's going to happen in the next year to 2 years, which is normally about how long some of these reforms take, because we've got 2-year prescription now.
Right.
So it may take another year or two to see the full effect. But I'm encouraged by what we've seen so far.
Got State Representative Michael Melerine on with us. And yeah, I mean, that's a long way of saying good faith. like good faith that
Yeah.
we're showing we can do and we will do what we need to do. The flip side of that, Representative Melerine, if I'm hearing you right, and maybe I'm taking a little bit too much away from this, but it's sounding more and more, and this is based off of not just this conversation, but the number of conversations that we have on the show. Nuclear verdicts kind of are going to be next in the crosshairs.
Yeah, look, there was a lot of bills that were filed last year that, for whatever reason, just didn't make it through the process.
Mm-hmm.
And talk to some of those authors of those bills. For example, some of them went in and they turned into study resolutions, and it said, okay, there's some we have a draft of a bill, we have an idea, there's some details we need to work out.
Right.
And talking to some of those authors, they're still working through some of those details and trying to get it in a spot where we don't hurt people that are legitimately injured in an accident. Like, you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that if somebody is legitimately hurt and they've got XYZ claim, like, that there's a balance between compensating them for an injury and also just, holding an insurance company accountable there. And you need to do both. And that's that balance. So they're still working on some of those. And there's some of the other bills where the ideas were there and people are still talking and they're still trying to figure out what's that line where, okay, where's the balance between holding an insurance company accountable and somebody that causes an accident accountable, but also at the same time not having a nuclear verdict or runaway jury, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And so I know people are still looking at it. I don't know what's going to come. Like I said, some of them are still in the process from talking to people. We said it last year and I'll say it again. I don't think last year was an end. I think it was a spot where we said, okay, we actually, for the first time in a while, made meaningful change. Now let's see what we've got. Let's not rush in to do things just to do things, but let's take a second. And I think that's kind of where a lot of us are that ran these bills last year.
Yep.
And a lot of us in the legislature are, all right, we know that we're not done, but let's see where we're at.
We got State Representative Michael Melerine on with us. Hey, do you have to split? Can I keep you? Because we haven't even talked to homeowners yet. Can I keep you through the break for another couple minutes?
Yeah, let's go.
Excellent. Going to drop you right back on hold there. We will pick this conversation back up on the homeowners insurance side in just a little bit. Before we hit your money now, got to remind you about One Bath and Closets. David Duvall and his team over at One Bath and Closets. The job that they do, I could attest to this firsthand. This is a full-throated endorsement for if you're looking to renovate your bathroom, if you're living in an older home, you purchased an older home, and it's time to bring it up to speed, bring it to modern times. I brought on One Bath and Closets to renovate the master bath in the house, and we are so pleased with the results. I got a couple of pics over on my personal Facebook page, but the process from start to finish, David and his team, they take care of you from start to finish. Give them a call, 400-8005. Of course, area code 225-400-8005 for One Bath and Closets. No, your money now. I need you to take the Robert Kraft cut and just move it over to tomorrow's folder. I have a whole rant that goes along with it, but it's evergreen. It's not news cycle based. Representative Melorine's rolling right now, and he's kicking ass. So I wanted to keep with him for a little while. We should still have so much meat on the bone we haven't covered. Why is it I remember he had House Bill 450 last year, but what was the terminology behind it? If you get into an accident, you can't presume that the injuries that this person has come from said acts. Presumptive. I'm brain farting on the term. I hate brain farting. This late in the show, it's expected, I guess. Oh, bro, and
They're
it's
showing, I mean, it's the update as of an hour ago. It moved a little north. Like, talking about for this barely, but it moved a little north. So, like, Alexandria, it's going to fall right at Alexandria now.
yeah.
That's what they're showing. But that
The
can
bomb
change.
cyclone,
Yeah, but that can change 80 million times before it gets
of course, and it will change. Every time new numbers come out, they're going to move it over, and everybody's going to hyper react. And
Somebody was online saying, leave the toilet paper.
it's meanwhile, we're all going to be like living our best life at L'Auberge in the middle of it.
I know. So my friend goes, because she's my date, because Scott has a show. And she's like, are we still going? And I'm like, as of right now, it's still on. And she's like, we can't be on the road. And I'm like, sis, I'm like, I may have to work, like actually work. And she's like, what? I'm like, I'm essential. So it was Brian. So it was everybody.
Right.
Like, I may have to be at the station. She's like, they can't do that. I'm like, I'm going to pack a bag and sleep there, probably. If
Right.
it's bad enough.
It's
I'm like, yeah, they can do that. I'm like, that's what the job is.
yep.
So I was like, if they cancel the party, that's 95%. We gotta hunker down. and
Yeah.
relax.
We're not canceling the party though.
I don't think they're gonna cancel it either.
I think by this time tomorrow, we're going to see our percentage of rain on Saturday night dropping down.
Because it's all gonna come during the day. Right?
Yep.
That's what I thought. Who produced you when we had that snow? JP was here.
Yours truly.
You produced your own show.
Yep.
Brian.
What?
You were on this side of the board, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I was on that side of the board. I produced and hosted at the same time. I was locked in the building. Second night I had Michelle she was between here and Lod Cook, but like in the thick of it, she was stuck over at Lod. If I'm remembering right, she may have been stuck at Lod Cook for a little while. Second night I was able to make it back over to Lod Cook. And then the third night I was able to make it back over to Lod Cook. And then by day 4, that was when we pushed the Washington Mardi Gras trip back by a day. And I was able to fly out. I flew out on Thursday. So I don't remember. I don't remember. But we had our runway cleared before New Orleans did, and I couldn't get my flight moved up here. I was flying out of New Orleans last year, out of Moisant or Armstrong. One day I'll stop calling the New Orleans airport Moisant. I don't know when. Oh.
That guy it is.
You what?
He says it's still MSY. I said it is.
But it's Armstrong. It's Louis Armstrong Airport, not Moisant anymore. So 8:56 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. We got just about 3.5 minutes left before we get out of here and hand off to the Moon Griffon show. State Representative Michael Melarine's on with us, talking about the improvements on the insurance front. Representative Melerine, thank you for holding through the break, because we talked all auto insurance on the first segment, and we didn't get around to homeowners. So dive in. Where are we at right now?
Yeah, look, last year we saw the slowest are the lowest rate increases on average cumulative across the state since 2020. It's not obviously where we want to be, but it is encouraging that the rate increases have been at the lowest. I think it was a little over 4% on average across the state. But if you look, there are signs where people are coming in and asking for decreases. I think 13 companies asked for decreases. One of them was State Farm Fire and Casualty, which has a pretty decent sized share of the market. And it was around $70 million in savings across their book of business throughout the state. Again, we tackled that in 24 very heavily. We came back last year and added some more reforms to it. Senator Talbot had a tax credit for fortified roofs. We put more money into the fortified roof program. And look, we're unique in Louisiana, where along the coast is where most of our population lives. It's a very high hurricane risk. And so getting those fortified roofs on structures is something that across the industry and across states you can see it will help, one, secure your home and keep it safe during a storm, and two, and as a result, will help lower your premium. And so I'm encouraged that we did that. I'm encouraged that we have those, the rates are going up at a slower rate than normal. But it's a few year process again. And so I'm encouraged that we can get there. Obviously, we need to keep looking at homeowners and see what else we can do. But I did talk to some people just last week who said, look, I renewed my home and it barely went up. And it essentially was at a standstill. And if we can get it so where it stands pat, obviously we would love to have it go down and bring more relief. But at this point, just standing still is good.
And this is another one where if you shop around, you will benefit. Mike, I got to tell you, my wife and I had the same homeowners insurance. When we bought our first home, when we got married back in 2001, we had the home, we bought our home, we got our homeowners insurance. We moved to a different home in 2012, kept the same homeowners company, same policy. We went shopping for it this year. Tim Temple pushed me over the edge. He said, you need to shop for a better rate. We went shopping for a different homeowners insurance company this year, and we are saving more than half of what we were paying before. So the more we shop, the more the market will respond, to be sure. If you see a cheap one somewhere, it's going to cause other ones to knock it down as well. This is going to be, don't make it a chicken and egg situation,
Yeah. Look, and one reason why people
20 seconds left. Sorry.
Around was that 3-year rule. Now that the 3-year rule is gone, like it's going to lead to more people shopping around on homeowners, I think. So we'll see. But look, there's still more work to do. We're not there yet. We're not claiming victory, but it is encouraging.
He is State Representative Michael Melerine. We always appreciate the time, man.
All right, man. Thank you. Have a good one.
Thanks. We'll talk soon. Moon Graffon's next. We're out of here. Okay, here comes the part where I collapse. So we'll see y'all. Yeah, I'm done. I'm done. I've got to do